Oh, no, up here. Oh, yeah, that's it. That's it.
It's okay. We should try to look. It's okay. Do we know?
Oh, the real man, I wore my pink shirt.
I just haven't done it.
The next meeting, I'm keeping up with it.
All right, if we can, I'm gonna call this meeting to order. If we can stand for the pledge of allegiance, followed by a moment of silence. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. All right, go ahead with the roll call.
Commissioner Robbins is absent. Commissioner Walter.
Here.
Commissioner Bunnick.
Here.
Commissioner Wessel.
Here.
Commissioner Campbell.
Here.
Commissioner Alguier.
Yes.
Chairman Yoder.
Here. All right, thank you. Next up, we have our agenda in front of us. Do you have any additions or deletions?
We'll approve the agenda as presented.
Support.
All right, motion made by Commissioner Wessel, supported by Commissioner Algar. Any discussion? Not all in favor of that motion, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say nay. Motion carries 6-0. All right, next up, we got communications. First one we have is from our administrator.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. A number of things that are definitely worthy of mentioning this morning, but I'll try to be as brief as possible. We are scheduling the presentation of the last fiscal year's audit to occur on July 15th at our 6:30 evening meeting. We believe that it'd be best to have that presentation during an evening meeting where it's more likely to have public exposure and participation. We'll be passing out to you the audit books well in advance of that, so you'll have a week or maybe even 2 weeks to review those books prior to the audit presentation. I'm also pursuing, if you could, well, first of all, I'm going to be sending you all an email asking for your preferences regarding timing of a board process and strategic planning session to occur sometime in the next, possibly even as early as the next 30 days. But I'd like to get your preferences regarding times and dates and that sort of thing, so we can locate a facilitator for that. I'll also be,
Excuse me.
yes.
A strategic planning session.
Yes. Our board process and strategic planning session. That's one of the things we talked about during my interview, to have a basically, essentially, how do we work well together as administrator and board, that kind of thing. It's one of the first things I did up in North Fork, was to have that kind of session with the board addressed. Anyways, in my tenure.
I just wanted to understand what you.
Sure. Also, I'll be sending you a email, and I'd like to schedule individual meetings with all of you to discuss how you'd like to see the budget process handled. We've got a couple commissioners that have been here a while, but that are new or recently elected. We have a process that we normally use. I'll send that process to you by email, but also I'd like to talk to you individually to get your impressions of what you'd like to see, what information you'd like to see from us as you approach the budget. Be starting that relatively soon, probably as early as July internally, and then August and be involved. You want to know how many meetings you want, what kind of information you want from us, and in what detail. So I'll be sending that out after this meeting. In the past, we've talked about Blue Cross and Blue Shield. That review is progressing. What we're seeing is we're spending about the same as we were spending last year at this time. Not any significant increase. The main difference is the cost of the stop loss as you approved in the previous plan year. It was in the neighborhood of $820 per contract times 94 contracts, and now it's in the neighborhood of $1,244 per contract. That's the main change in the cost for you, but the cost that we have been paying is relatively the same, even including that, relatively the same as what we paid in the past. You'll also hear today about a plan we're presenting. It's called the Pillar Program that reduces the cost to us of our 20 most, or the attempts to reduce the cost to us of our 20 most highest costly drugs. It will not impact at all the employees' contributions or co-pays or anything that they will pay. It'll just reduce the cost to us for providing these drugs to the employees. And the cost of that program is paid through the savings that we gain. So the example that they gave us, if everyone were to sign up for the program, it would save us approximately $40,000, and the company that does the work for us would get about $10,000 as part of that process. And Jen will be talking to you about that and ask your approval for that today. And then I anticipate a presentation either at our June regular or July executive meeting to detail exactly where we stand on that. So you have information about the Blue Cross Blue Shield self-insurance program that we offer to our employees. A couple other things. We did complete the employee entrance facade. That project is pretty much complete except for painting of the steel drip edge that we've added. That's going to take place. But if you happen to go around the side, you'll see the masonry portion has been completed. It was stained yesterday, stained to match the existing brick, and in my opinion looks quite good. As I said, we're going to paint the steel drip edge that you'll see there. It looks like it's kind of a mottled brown color right now. It'll be painted in a color that's consistent with the railing color and the door frame color. So all the steel will be consistent in color. We've got a fairly extensive report from Point Broadband that I can give you information on. The cabinet number 1, which is the southeast side of Lake Leelanau, kind of south of Shady Lane and north of Fouch Road, that's completed and it's undergoing testing right now. They anticipate installations by June 16th. In cabinet number 14, that is the northernmost part of the county. That's Woolsey Lake Road area. They are also currently undergoing testing and anticipate installations by June 16th. That includes the Cathead Bay, Cal Lake, and Sugar Bush areas. They are reporting that as completed and ready for installations also by June 16th. 2 other cabinets that are actually in my neighborhood, Cabinet 2, which is McAllister Road, south to Lee Point Road and east of M22. They're progressing steadily. They really didn't have any projection other than completion by the end of the month. But I've actually been personally walking that area. That's where we live. And I've seen their trucks and their workers in the area. So the projection of completion by the end of the month is probably accurate. Cabinet number 7 is McAllister Road north to Stony Point Road and east of M22 is pretty much in the same situation. It sounds like they're a little bit farther behind, and they anticipate completion the second week of July. They've also completed and are ready to do installations on Camp Haven Road, Indian Beach Road, Wood Smoke, which I'm not familiar with, Conroy and Manitou Road, and North Cove Trail. That's the report that we received from Point Broadband. I think they're going to be in the county on June 16th, and I expect to be meeting with them to get a even further update regarding that. And finally, there's been an issue that's arisen regarding the Leeland Dam walkway project that we completed. Because we altered the construction, we were required to comply with the Americans with Disabilities Act. We've confirmed that it does comply. The walkway from the access point on near the Cove Restaurant to the end of the walkway near the Falling Water Lodge is ADA compliant. That's the portion that is owned by the county, and we confirmed that. We installed a gate at the end of that, and it was lockable because the portion beyond at Falling Waters Lodge is not ADA compliant. Someone could not take, say, a wheelchair and then access the Falling Waters Lodge area. We had that gate was locked. It was tampered with in a way that prevented it from being relocked, so that lock was removed. And I've instructed the facilities department they're ready to replace that lock, but I've instructed them not to replace that until we get a confirmation from both our insurance and legal counsel that we're required to keep that lock. Because I've done a lot of research on the compliance with the Americans with Disabilities Act. I think we can make the argument that that walkway ends, the ADA accessible route ends at our property line, and that we can install signage indicating that, and potentially leave the gate in place but unlocked, so it could be accessed from both sides. But if our insurers and attorneys recommend that we not do that, we'll have to keep it locked or perhaps even build a wall there. That's the state of that situation. That only arose fairly recently when, again, the lock was tampered. That's my report, Mr. Chair. If you have any questions for me, I'm happy to answer it. Mike?
Yeah, I'm just wondering about that, the tampering with the locks. We have cameras or anything that can show who did that tampering?
I don't believe so. I think there are cameras in the area, but they don't really show that lock area. And I believe I don't know that they are recording cameras. They display, but they don't,
I mean,
they don't retain.
If we have to lock it up again, which I hope we don't, but if we do, then we should put a camera on it so whoever tampers with it would.
You can guarantee that that's something that we'll do. Okay. Absolutely. There are cameras at the walkway. We are having difficulty with receiving them remotely. But again, I don't believe the data is recorded, or at least not for an extended period of time.
I mean, if it is, it would be good to know and actually do something about it.
Well, and our insurers may actually require us to do that, because it would demonstrate if somebody was not just tampering with the lock, but misusing that area in a way that increased the liability for the county.
Did you end up filing lodging a complaint with the county sheriff's?
I did not, because we didn't think we had enough evidence to indicate who it was or anything like that. What's that?
I said, that's for them to figure out. So, I mean, if the polling lodge has a camera, they could access, then they could. So that would probably be the logical route.
If you'd like me to do that, I certainly could.
I would recommend.
Okay. This one.
Any other questions for Administrator?
Can I introduce our next speaker?
Go ahead.
It is my pleasure to introduce Greg McMorrow. Greg is here as the chair of the Northern Lakes Community Mental Health Authority. He's in his second term of being chair. He was re-elected unanimously by everybody 2 months ago. He is, it's a challenging time, and his background before he went into the private sector, and he had background in community mental health, and built some credibility with consumers and with staff. And it's a challenging time, and it's good leadership, and he's here to report to us on an update. Thanks, Greg.
Thank you. Thank you.
And he lives in Leelanau.
I do live beautiful Omina. I'm grateful for it every day. Thank you and good morning. So my name is Greg McMorrow. I am honored to be an appointee from this board to the Northern Lakes Community Mental Health Board. I am one of 16 board members to Northern Lakes Community Board, Community Health, Mental Health Board. We are comprised of 6 counties, from largest to smallest in population would be Grand Traverse County. It's 23 population, roughly 103,000. Next is Wexford County, think of Cadillac, about 35,000. Subsequently, it gets much smaller. Leelanau and Roscommon are about equal at 23,000, 24,000 population. The 2 smallest counties are Crawford, think of Grayling, and Missaukee County, Lake City is the county seat. Those are approximately 14,000 each. The entire group area is known as a catchment area. It's a term used by the State Office of Management and Budget. We use that term quite regularly to define the boundaries of our responsibility, both in terms of geography and the population of the people in that area. We are approximately 84% funded by Medicaid. I want to bring to your attention, just by way of background, 1 month ago, on May 9th, the State of Michigan Department of Health and Human Services, in conjunction with the State of Michigan Office of Management and Budget, issued this executive directive, which outlined the expected impact of Medicaid cuts to our citizens. It does it by population, by category, and by service delivery. I'm going to just briefly mention this to you so you get an understanding. We've all heard Medicaid cuts are being expected. And the messaging from Washington is that Medicaid is going to be cut. In the current House bill as it stands, they're cut quite substantially. That bill, as you know, is in conference with the Senate to be negotiated. However, our budget, as we go into our budget cycle at Northern Lakes, we have to anticipate. It's a real difficult thing to do. Having been 35 years in corporate America, it's very difficult to anticipate budgets, anticipate revenue, when the source of that revenue can become terribly unpredictable. It can be cut by 20, 30, 40%. I don't want to argue or debate or even advocate whether that's right or wrong. It's just simply factual. So I'll just deal with the facts that the budget, the revenue expected from the state is going to decline. We have 46 community mental health agencies in Michigan. The 1974 Community Mental Health Act codified a requirement that every county, every one of the 83 counties in Michigan, offer behavioral health services to their residents. It's required. You folks carry that burden for our county. Many of the counties are sufficient enough in size. They have enough of scale. They can stand up their own mental health department. So within that 46 community mental health agencies, about 38 of them are county departments where the county board appoints a director, that director reports to this board. Some very small counties have their own county. For example, Berry County, which think of Hastings, Michigan, is a standalone CMH that reports to county government. However, much of northern Michigan bands together, so we have multi-county authorities. Ours happens to be a 6-county authority, those counties that I just referenced. And if this seems too backgroundy, please back me off, because I could provide too much and not read the crowd very well. So I want to make sure I kind of get where you need to go. All of that said, our population in general in this catchment area has grown dramatically, but not on a straight line. It's kind of grown in stair steps over time. The last 5 years has been the amplitude of that curve for you physics nerds is very steep over the last 5 years. Needless to say, that has put a great deal of pressure on the therapeutic skills within Northern Lakes Community Mental Health, particularly as it applies to the distribution of geography. It's very difficult now in this environment to get a licensed clinician. Think of licensed social worker, medical social worker, licensed psychologist. We have a full-time psychiatrist and a backup psychiatrist, a contract psychiatrist. It's really difficult to get some of those skills in, for example, Houghton Lake, where we have a population that we service. It's for Roscommon County, or in Missaukee County. So as a result, we have to define a method to get therapeutic services out to those communities with licensed clinicians who are willing to travel, but many of them wish to live in a larger community like Traverse City. So I'm just lay that out there as a dynamic that we have to manage to. It's a difficult dynamic right now. The reason I wanted to bring this up is of those 46 community mental health agencies, there are 440 licensed Medicaid nursing homes in the state. There are over 300 high schools that get Medicaid payment. All of those entities, every single one is facing a Medicaid budget reduction, every single one, as it stands right now. We don't know what the final bill and the final allocation of funding will be. Now let's fast forward to Northern Lakes. Northern Lakes, we currently have a roster of 4,785 registered clients that we service. We have to identify the clients by name. Not all of them are Medicaid eligible. Not all are, but nearly 90% are. A very, very high percentage are Medicaid eligible. The state had required us to do a recertification of every soul, every person in our service area. That created quite an anomaly, quite a difficult time going through the state mandated requirement for recertification to make sure that everyone who is receiving services are eligible for Medicaid reimbursement. Those didn't quite align well. In other words, our recertification did not identify the complete list of people who are getting services. There's reasons for that. Some valid, some operational. We're working through it. However, we're back to almost 98% of recertification of our clientele. So we're in pretty decent shape there. Let me take you to some more tactical issues because I don't want to monopolize your morning. As board chair, I'm authorized by our bylaws to call, to set the agenda for our meetings, much like your chair is, and call special meetings as required. I called a special meeting yesterday, which was held at the Northern Lakes headquarters on Hall Street in Traverse City, with the one purpose of talking about a cost containment plan for the agency. Our pro forma budget for the 2026 fiscal year, which begins October 1st, shows a deficit of $8.7 million. That's given what the current projections are for Medicaid funding. That deficit does not represent, there are many components to that deficit. Some of them are one-time events. For example, we as a board voted to divest ourselves of 2 money-losing initiatives. And when I say money losing, I don't want to give you the impression everything is determined by finance. Everything is determined by recipient quality of care. But we had a program, an integrated health plan that which provided physical health, and we just didn't have enough people using it, and we were losing several $100,000 a year for it. So we canceled it. We found services for all those recipients to receive from other providers. Yesterday, we approved a process as board to eliminate that budget deficit. It will require it potentially requires layoffs, it requires some scaling back of programs, some of which were started with the abundance of revenue that came in after COVID. Some are grant funded, and those grants have been terminated by MDH, by the federal government. So we're in the process of trying to manage to a dynamic and a landscape that's shifting very dramatically day in and day out. Nevertheless, our board, we have a wonderfully committed board. Our meetings are civil, they're organized, they're very productive. We have, as a board, agreed to lead this in a measured manner, in a meaningful manner, and to make sure that at the end of the day, our priority is to provide services to all the citizens who require it in our catchment area, but still meet the financial obligations that we as a board carry. I've talked a lot. Let me throw it out to you. Is that okay?
Could you share with us the kinds of individuals that qualify for Medicare services
Medicaid?
or Medicaid services?
Sure. There's Medicaid determination and redetermination requires a couple things. One is kind of an economic metric. Are you able to earn money? And if so, what is your earning potential and capability? And then looking back, have you earned that? So there is a poverty line established by the government. Medicaid eligibility depends on the state. The state can set the final rules. It's a function of that federal poverty line. In some states, it's 1.5 times the poverty line. And Michigan right now, exactly, I don't know, it's up for debate. The legislature is wrestling with that as we speak. So there's an economic metric, but there's also a therapeutic metric. So all the recipients who go through an intake process, we have recipients who have been receiving services for decades. Think of adults with what we traditionally call Down syndrome, who have received services in their homes till they were 30 or 40. Their parents pass, they have no network, they have no in-house support. What happens to those people? Well, how do they live? Many of them are nonverbal. Many of them are incapable of earning income. We have a large cadre of those individuals. Our agency operates 9 board-operated homes in an apartment building, and many of those, which are all AFC licensed by the state, adult foster care licensed, will house individuals who have received a diagnosis as, to use an acronym, IDD, intellectually and developmentally disabled, is the correct term for those people who have organic mental illness. If they've received that kind of through the intake process, a diagnosis from a licensed clinician, that also can give them a qualification for Medicaid services. Did that answer your question? Okay.
The most vulnerable population of people that we have, the autistic, the mentally ill, the impaired, incarcerated, the addicted.
Yeah, and almost over 85% of the folks that were previously living at the Pines are registered recipients of mental health services. Yes, question.
So you mentioned you've planned layoffs of what type of staff?
As we speak, this was a meeting we had yesterday, so
Yeah.
I don't know. We made it clear that as a board, we don't support laying off any therapeutic staff, case managers, psychologists, social workers, particularly in the case management community, because those are the kind of the one-on-one people that face the clients. We've challenged our CEO to come up, our interim CEO to come up with a plan where we would identify those roles, but not by individual. So we as a board are a non-operational board. We're a policy setting board. We delegate the operational authority to the leadership team. They will ultimately make those selections. So by name or as we speak, by title, I can't give you an answer.
Thank you.
Sure.
It's, it's one of the reasons it's so hard, in case other people don't know, to hire therapists, is the pay is so low. And that's not your fault. That's Medicaid, that's insurance. Remuneration is so low. You can't live on that salary. It's very difficult.
Sure.
So to lose any of the ones that you've managed to get to work there would be a tragedy.
Unfortunately, it would be. When I joined, I'm honored again to be on the board. This is my second term. I'm in the first year of my second term. I've been on the Northern Lakes Board 4 years. When I joined the board, currently we have 328 full-time employees, FTEs, and there's a handful of part-time employees and a number of contractors. We had 64 job openings when I joined the board. This has nothing to do with me. This entirely has to do with external events, COVID, financial issues. Now at last count, we had 16 open positions. Our CEO has enacted a hiring freeze, so those will remain unfilled and work will be done in a consolidated manner. But you're exactly right. We cannot afford to lose any of these individuals. In our board operated homes, we have probably the largest number of employees because we manage those. We have to have 2 staff 24/7. Can't afford to lose any of those residential aides, any of the clinical staff. But not to belabor the point, remuneration is an issue. Governor Whitmer signed a law last fall called insurance parity, you may be aware of. It's an important law. It requires that private health insurers in Michigan provide the same level of insurance coverage for mental health and substance use disorder services as they do for physical health. That's the law. Now, it's going to be tough implementing that law, but that can over time change this landscape. And it probably will. And had this been when I was a clinical psychologist, as a licensed psychologist, I would have loved this to be in place, but that's 40 years ago. It takes 40 years to elevate the debate to say that one's mental health is just as important as having a strong heart. What's the point if you have great physical health, but you're causing your own life misery and others around you? I know I'm on a soapbox, so I'll get off of it, but that will help. Parity is going to help that problem.
I was a therapist. I like that soapbox.
I just asked it, was any money appropriated with that responsibility set forth by the state, the recent law?
Oh, in the parity law?
Yes.
Not to my knowledge. It simply, up to that point, private carriers, the Blues and Priority Health, others, did not have to offer behavioral health coverage. So if I needed, they would cover a chiropractor, but they wouldn't cover a psychiatrist because I was in a psychiatric crisis. I don't think the state, to my knowledge, had any financial contribution to that. It simply mandated that if you're going to offer medical.
Yeah, I'm just thinking of future healthcare costs because, of course, that will be reflected in premiums eventually.
It will. It certainly will.
Sure.
It's a classic example, unfortunately, of you pay me now or pay me a whole lot later. So and the incarceration rates for those states where they're covering mental health services, the long-term incarceration rates are directly inverse to their population getting mental health services. The more we contribute, more we invest in particularly with teens right now, our teen population, that cohort is under extreme in my psychological distress, but I won't get too far down that rabbit
Yeah,
hole.
actually, just one more question. Is it, your organization goes to, down to what age? Is it birth up, or is there a certain age where?
Effectively birth up. We do have an infant mental health therapy program.
Any other questions? No? Yes.
So basically, when you said that each county is mandated to provide mental health services.
Mhm.
If money from our taxes that went to the federal government that are supposed to come back, don't come back, we counties will have to start paying for part of this. That's.
Or you
that
lobby
could
your,
Be the bottom line.
well, you'll still have the mandate, just like
Yes,
we
we
do.
still
We
have
have a
the
mandate. We have to service anyone who walks the door. You will still have that mandate unless the legislature relieves you of it. How you do that is, for example, in 2024, Leelanau County contributed $139,700 to Northern Lakes budget. That year, our budget was 85.81 million. In aggregate, the counties provided 1.1% of our budget, 1.1. I know the man hours that were spent, for example, by our therapeutic staff just in Leelanau County. And for 130, I better not do this now that I think about it. Let me give myself some therapy just a minute. I'm kidding. It's a really small investment that counties are currently making out of the direct budgets. But to answer your question, the county will still have the obligation. How it's covered, we don't know yet. That said, I don't want to leave you the image that we're not taking proactive actions to stabilize our finances. The therapeutic delivery blanket that we're covering the area, it is moving forward. We are in the process of hiring a new CEO. We have some terrific candidates that I'm excited about, and that's just another activity that we're managing through at the moment.
Is that something you wanted to address? Mr. Dyer?
Commissioner Algier raises the important point, and Greg has indicated, really the very small amount that we contribute directly to out of the general fund for that. One of the reasons we had Greg come here today was that there had been reports in the media, basically predicting dire financial consequences and straits for Northern Lakes CMH. And part of your agreement with the other counties that are involved in this is the existence of what's referred to as the Dispute Resolution Committee. And that's a committee of all of the county administrators of all the participants. And it's required to meet once a year. And that annual meeting happened a couple of months ago, happened to coincide with the first look at the budget for Northern Lakes. And the county administrators were very concerned that there might be some, if the board did not adopt a cost containment plan as is being described by board chair, that we might have to make contributions over and above what we're currently making and unbudgeted contributions. But based upon what I've been hearing and heard today regarding the meeting yesterday, it appears as though NLCMH is on its way to, again, adopting the cost containment program that its existing interim CEO has recommended. I'll certainly confer with my other county administrators, but I'm much less concerned about the possibility that we'll need a contribution in excess of our current general fund contribution than I was 2 months ago. And we were hoping to have Greg come here and let you see the efforts that they're doing to contain their budget in a very challenging funding environment. Most of the funding, it does come from the federal government and the state for this sort of thing, and a very limited amount comes from the county. But you asked the appropriate question. If that funding gets cut, where's the money going to come from? And it may need to come from our general fund. We're trying to avoid that.
Except that federal money was money we sent. So why are we not going to get it back? And why do we have to, again, pay more? So we need to pay attention to this because 84%, what we need to end up with is a quality organization that serves our people, not a letterhead that says, oh yeah, we have mental health.
Right.
We
Yeah,
need you guys to be able to be effective and do your jobs and serve the people. So thank you for your work.
Well, I appreciate, this is, our board is committed. As I mentioned, I'll just leave you with a couple of facts. We have a 16-member board, as I mentioned, but as we speak, I have 5 new board members who have attended 2 meetings or less, 1 vacant board position. I'm obligated by my bylaws to do a board orientation and try to bring those board members up to speed on the flow of funds, for example, Medicaid through the MDHHS to the NMRE. I don't know if you know that acronym. The NMRE is the Medicaid payer for the 21 counties to all the CMHs. That dynamic, having new board members, that many is a challenge. And that's one of the things that's it's tough to manage too. All good people, all committed people, but it takes a while to, understand the network of the sources of funding and the issues that you're facing as a management team. And lastly, one other dynamic, our board adopted a new governance model in November, went into full effect in January, which also has created it's a good board model. It's a committee-based model. It's adopted by almost 90% of the CMHs in the state. Much has been written about Northern Lakes challenges, but I really feel we're addressing them all. Can we do better? Probably we can. But given the constraints and the pressures on the agency, the employees are really getting the work done. We have a lot of work to do and we need to keep our employees. But like Jim said, I feel much better today than I did 2 months ago. And particularly today, since MDHHS last night, announced an increase in the rates for service, which will narrow our budget deficit significantly. So that's how real time this is. I didn't have enough information. I was online as best I could get online in your parking lot to try and see what those rate impacts will be to our services. So probably too much information, and I apologize if I've rambled, but.
Okay, Mr. Monique has one more question.
Yes,
I was just wondering, did the CEO know that, the interim CEO know that you were coming here today?
I believe so. I can't confirm. He is also full-time in the military and is, as we speak, I don't know actually where he's located, but I'm just not sure if he's aware of my presence here.
So I was wondering, how come the CEO wasn't here presenting this, the interim CEO? If we're gonna have a presentation about community mental health.
He is out of the state. He joined us yesterday by Teams and in uniform because he was on duty.
He wasn't physically at our meeting yesterday.
So he did.
Good question.
But yeah, and I would just say that, the federal government is borrowing $2 trillion every year. So, I don't want to see it cut either, but there has to be cuts made somewhere. And it's unfortunate that, this money, we're borrowing it from our great grandchildren at this time. So they're going to be paying it if we don't find a way to do cuts. So I don't envy your position, but I can see what we're far past the necessity for it.
I want to say thank you for, I mean, I did attend your meeting yesterday just to kind of get a grip of everything you're dealing with, and you certainly got some challenges ahead trying to figure out how you're gonna do this budget, so I appreciate the meeting you run. Yeah, and just the input that was there from the public even was pretty concerning, and hopefully you can figure it out, so.
We will.
And I can address the question about the CEO's presence, because we did ask him to do a presentation. The first time he was available was October. So I asked him I asked the CEO at at the dispute resolution meeting, in fact, would it be acceptable to have board chair come, and that was his concurrence. So yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Greg.
Thank you.
All right, next up, we have an update from Resource Recovery Director, Lydia. Is she here?
Yes, she is.
Awesome.
You guys putting out the PowerPoint. All right. Good morning. I am Lydia Gulo. I am the Grand Traverse County Resource Recovery Director and the DPA for the Tri-County Materials Management planning effort. And I'll go into that later, what the DPA means. I'm also a proud Leland graduate. Just throw that in there. All right, so next slide, please. So this slide's pretty much answering why we're doing this. There is a legal requirement. Materials management plans are required by amendment to Part 115. And the idea there is these changes focus on sustainable materials management approaches, such as recycling and composting, instead of primarily disposal. Materials management plans, once approved, will replace existing solid waste management plans, which is what all of the counties in Michigan have right now, is solid waste management plans. And it focuses on reducing the impacts of material choices on our natural resources, the environment, and climate by establishing convenient, inclusive access to recycling, organics, management, waste reduction activities, and adequate disposal options. So on the right there, that's kind of a graphic that Eagle put out with landfilling being the least desirable or least preferred method of materials management. So yes, there is a legal requirement, but this is also a huge economic opportunity. So the market value of material disposed in Michigan every year is estimated to be between 500 million and $667 million. So obviously that can contribute to the economy, can create a lot of jobs. So that's kind of the why. Next slide, please. And then purpose continued. So materials management plans will give counties a tool in its authority management of solid waste, recyclables, organics, other related activities that generate waste in counties. Like in Leelanau County, you guys have a lot of agricultural waste. Provides funding to support initiatives that could be difficult for communities to get started, such as recycling efforts, diversion efforts. It documents current material management infrastructure, such as MRF facilities, composting facilities, which you guys have more so like small brush sites and composting facilities in Leelanau County. And it identifies needs and current capacity for materials management. It encourages collaboration with other counties and private industries. Obviously, it's Benzie County, Grand Traverse County, and Leelanau County working together on this. And it estimates current baseline waste generation rates and potential opportunities for materials management. Again, the focus is on materials management, not disposal. And this will help us make informed decisions about our waste streams. Next slide, please. So there are a lot of legal requirements that come with this, this is just kind of a rough overview of the legal requirements in terms of the timeline that we have to abide to. So the 3 counties have entered into an interlocal governmental agreement, and that resulted in additional funding dollars. And we have 3 years to complete the planning process. And that includes the materials management plan development and local approvals. So 2/3 out of all the municipalities that respond have to approve of this plan. So there's quite a bit of steps, and I will show you a graphic that's kind of messy, but you'll see how many steps are involved in this. So funding will be provided for each county through Eagle grants. Those are reimbursement grants. Additional federal or Eagle grants will be available. We had to submit a notice of intent to Eagle by July 6, 2024. We submitted our notice of intent on July 3rd. The work program, which essentially is just the grant application, was due within 180 days of the notice of intent submittal. And that has been accepted for all 3 counties. I think Leelanau County is the only county that needs to actually sign off on that. And then we asked for an extension for that work program, but we did receive approval for it. Again, going back to the municipalities approval, 67% of the municipalities in the counties must approve of the draft MMP. And there are ongoing reporting requirements set by Eagle. Next slide, please. So who is involved in this planning process? So the county approval agency, they will assume responsibility and are authorized to approve the materials management plan. We have been working with all 3 county board of commissioners for steps requiring CAA approval. So since we are a tri-county plan, we are kind of treating the CAA as all 3 board of commissioners working together. And then the designated planning agency, which is my department, and I am the director there, so I am the actual individual, and I work with the materials management planning committee, which is a permanent body that is appointed by the CAA to direct the DPA in the preparation, coordination, and ensures fulfillment of the MMP. We have a 13-member committee consisting of 1 county commissioner from each county. Ty was so kind to join that. Leelanau County has numerous members of their solid waste advisory council on that committee as well, such as James Palmer, Mark Bevelheimer, Andy Gale. They all are on that committee. And then we also have a Village of Suttons Bay trustee. Next slide, please. So this, I don't expect you to be able to read this. Like I said, it's very messy, but it just shows all of the different steps involved in the approval process of the materials management plan. I kind of just added that for your reference if you were curious about that. We had, like I said, we have submitted our work program, so our grant applications, we just need signatures on those. And then our next step is to bring a consultant on board to do a deep dive for data analysis. And then they actually will put together a draft materials management plan by early next June. But that gives us a lot of time to basically make changes if we need to make changes and get all those approvals that are necessary. Next slide, please. And then potential content of the materials management plan. That could include mechanisms for enforcement to incentivize waste diversion and materials use, county policies or ordinances that could be implemented, infrastructure needs. It could include education and outreach plans, roles and responsibilities, program funding mechanisms to achieve those goals, we want it to be an actual actionable plan to meet not just the state's goal of 45% diversion rate, but maybe we want to go bigger than that. It just depends on all of the counties and what's important to them. And yep, like I said, we can include goals in there. And then this was, let's see, what slide this was. And then Grand Traverse County has one of the most updated solid waste management plans in the state of Michigan, and Eagle actually uses it as a reference. So I think that was why Grand Traverse County really wanted to lead on this project, was just because we had good experience and a solid plan to work from already in terms of like reporting tonnages. Next slide, please. And then I mentioned bringing on a consultant. So these are some of the tasks that we could use a consultant for, or that we will use use a consultant for. I'm not going to sit here and read all of them, but it is a pretty in-depth scope of work. And a big part of it, like I said, is data collection, a gap analysis, because, we can set these pie in the sky goals, but they have to be feasible. They have to be realistic, and they have to match up to what our current infrastructure is. And if there's a potential for more infrastructure, then we need a realistic plan to get there. Next slide, please. These are just some more tasks for the consultant. And like I said, the biggest thing that they'll be working on, or that it's leading up to, is the draft materials management plan next June. And then we'll get those approvals, and then we will get approval from Eagle, the committee, the CAAs, and then that will be our final product. Next slide, please. And then I do have a couple updates to this slide, but essentially Grand Traverse County put out an RFP regarding materials management consulting services, which you guys approved them to do that. Then there was a voluntary evaluation committee that was assembled by members of the Materials Management Planning Committee. The evaluation committee evaluated a handful of proposals using a proposal evaluation matrix, narrowing the search down to 4 consultants. The evaluation committee interviewed these 4 finalists. The evaluation committee agreed to make the recommendation to the Materials Management Planning Committee to select Fishbeck to perform necessary services outside of staff's capacities. And Fishbeck was found to be highly qualified, offering comprehensive services, all at an affordable price. The former Leelanau County Planning Director, Trudy Gala, works at Fishbeck and would be assigned to this planning project, which we found to be a great strength based on her experience with local government. And she really does understand the demographic here. And then Benzie County Commissioners authorized the Grand Traverse Board of Commissioners to approve the recommended consultant. And then that was kind of my update, was that the Leelanau Board of Commissioners approved the DPA to release the RFP, consider the recommendation of the Materials Management Committee for the consultant, approve and sign any agreement to utilize Eagle MMP grant funds to cover consultant costs. And then that's supposed to be July 2nd. They ended up changing it. The recommendation to award a consultant the materials management plan contract will be made to Grand Traverse County Commissioners. Then we will get to work on this project with that deep dive into all of the data and gap analysis. So that's pretty much what I had. Next slide. I think it's just the questions. Questions or comments?
Yes, I was wondering, if when our solid waste council gets dispersed, or at what point does that happen? And then would the funding that we have per household be what you would use for funding at that time?
I cannot speak to that because you guys are funded by PA 69, I believe, right? So I'm not sure how all of that would look. That would be part of the next couple months to figure that out. What was your first question again? I apologize.
Well, at what point does our solid waste council get dispersed?
We've asked Eagle that question and they said that it could continue as its own independent entity, or we could make a tri-county committee.
Because I thought that's what you said you were going to do.
We do have a committee and it's supposed to last for the next 3 years, and we can have it extend past that if we choose to do so.
Well, and you said that you would replace the solid waste councils that the townships have, or the counties have.
The solid waste plans, it would replace the plans.
So they
So
wouldn't have their plan anymore, or you would have to follow your plan.
we would have the materials management plan that got approved by all the different municipalities.
And it does say you need to figure out a way to fund it, so that's what I was wondering. What is the ideas? Do you have those at all, or are you still working on that?
Well, there were more federal grants available. Eagle puts out grants all the time for market development, infrastructure grants. So we're very grateful that there's those type of opportunities, but there could be, I mean, I know it's kind of a scary word, but like there could be millages. I don't know how the PA 69 would translate over. I think that funding would stay in place for Benzie and Leelanau because that's how they're both funded. Grand Traverse County is funded on landfill tipping fees. So these are some of the differences that we'll have to kind of figure out how we're going to work together moving forward. So I don't have a concrete answer on that. To be determined. A lot of work to be done.
I wanted to commend Lydia for her leadership. It's a hardworking group and we're not sure where we're going to end up, but
Yes.
we know the cost constraints and we know what we have. And this body will approve the final plan when it's in place. So
Mhm.
we'll look at it, have to approve it.
Yeah, and there's feasibility studies that can be done, cost estimates that consultants can provide to for different projects. If we want to do a composting project for all 3 counties or, you know, I'm just using that as an example. But it's really up to what the residents find important. So part of this process will be, you know, doing surveys, going to meetings, getting feedback. Because if you don't have their support, then you're not gonna get it done. So.
Bill?
I too, I can tell you're very dedicated and got a good group you're working with. And later on, we have a grant that we're going to approve. And I had concerns about whether the state was going to reimburse, so that's kind of the good and the bad. It has in the original, we're budgeted at 60,000, we came in at 81,000. That's about 31%, 33% increase. However, the state's going to cover it. So, all right, I feel pretty good about that part of it. I do have, you know, I hate to come at it like I'm just not a big fan of the regionalization of this. So that's I'm more of a local control fella. And I would rather that I understand this came from on high. I just think that Leelanau County with Trudy had just a first class program for materials waste, and so I frankly don't see the need for the regionalization. One of the things you mentioned was mechanisms for enforcement to incentivize waste diversion and materials use. And yeah, that makes me concerned. What would be a mechanism for enforcement?
Kind of drawing a blank on that. I mean, there's a lot of different examples.
I'm just reluctant for Leelanau County.
Yeah, like, but you don't want to tell people what to do, but if there's some sort of economic incentive, and it's the right thing to do, and like I talked about, because I'm all about actually decentralization as well. I think 3 counties wanted to get together because there was additional funding or funding. There's also trash doesn't know borders. We're relatively similar in our makeup, besides Traverse City having more urban versus you guys have more rural, but Grand Traverse County does also have rural. But I mean, that's to be determined what those enforcement mechanisms look like. Because I don't want to have to tell someone what they have to do, right? I'd rather educate them on, the economic value or the environmental value, keeping your soil, your air, your water clean, and using a little bit of psychology there to get a positive outcome.
I'm with you 100%.
Yeah, education is a huge part of this whole
And the
process.
enforcement. I'd rather use a carrot than a stick.
Yeah, and like Grand Traverse County, like we require facilities to report tonnages, and also they do quarterly reports for solid waste, special solid waste, recycling. So it's just, we're trying to basically, we make a requirement that they need to do reporting so we can have more data, so we can make better informed decisions. I mean, I'm excited to figure out all the different possibilities, like.
There's a group here, Crowd, that's working on organic waste. Are you incorporating that?
So I have gone to a couple of the meetings personally. Dr. Bob, who started it, he actually has spoken at a few of our materials management planning committee meetings in the public comment section. And he's really talking about composting, biochar, and how that ties into revitalizing our soil, preventing nutrients from running off in our sandy soil, because that's something we're facing. So yeah, we do have a bit of collaboration, or there's communication there, I will say.
Yeah, I would hope that would be incorporated.
Yeah, because there's a lot of passionate, intelligent people in all 3 of our counties that really want to see positive change, and not just have stuff go in a hole in the ground. I think we could do a lot better than that.
Thank you.
Have any other questions for Lydia? Not? Thank you.
All right, thank you guys. Have a good rest of your day.
Thank you.
Right, next up, we are up to public comments. Each individual has 3 minutes. This agenda specific. If anybody wants to address the board, yes, ma'am.
My name is Deb Kuhn, and I live in Centerville Township. And what I'd like to speak with you today is very personal to me. It has to do with the CMH presentation. My son is 33 years old, and he is one of those recipients. He is one of those people whose not really life, his living a reasonable life is completely dependent upon CMH and their funding. I was very relieved to hear that the cuts that they're facing probably will not be those really important one-on-one case management arrangements that my son has. We are not in an AFC home. You should know that there is another option for Michigan families that are Medicaid recipients, and that is called self-directed. This is where my husband and I have arranged for my son to have roommates and staff, and we're the ones in charge, rather than an adult foster care where you essentially give your adult over to the state of Michigan to make those decisions. So what I wanted to talk with you today is something that is happening in a neighboring CMH that we do not want to spread here to our CMH. A push towards all competitive work projects. CMH right now pays for my son to go to, I hope you've heard of Grand Traverse Industries. Grand Traverse Industries is what used to be known as a sheltered workshop, but is now a supported employment agency. For the folks who are able to go out and work, they are competitive. But for folks like my beloved son, Trevor, it is a place where he receives social skills, where he gets sensory feedback, he gets to go on outings, he has peers. It's a lovely place that he gets to go to 3 days a week. And it's critical to his feeling part of society and community. And a neighboring CMH has cut this program out, has cut a center-based program out. And I just wanted to point out in my 3 minutes, the importance of having a continuum of services for all the types of individuals that benefit from these programs, including the ones that can't go out and work competitively, like my son. Thank you very much.
Any other? Yes, ma'am.
She was walking up.
I'm Nancy Corbel, and I currently live in Traverse City, Grand Traverse County, but I was born and raised here. And as Lydia said, she graduated from Leland Public School. I proudly graduated from St. Mary's Lake Leelanau. I am a parent whose disabled child resides in Leelanau County in a CMH residential facility and has for 17 years. I've been involved with community mental health for 43 years now on behalf of my son, and I have nothing but high praises for community mental health. Patrick currently attends Grand Traverse Industries in Traverse City, and what a gift that has been to him over the years. GTI is his community. During COVID shutdowns, we knew he was depressed, but there wasn't much we could do about it. So the reopening of GTI was a godsend to us and to him. GTI provides Patrick with daily stimulation, a chance to interact with others, and gets him out and about in the greater Grand Traverse community. With proposed federal cuts to Medicaid funding, there could be significant impacts for services for individuals with disabilities. There have been model changes for services proposed with North Country CMH, which is north of us, where they are trying to close down facilities such as GTI. They have expressed that this is a state directive to no longer fund facilities such as Grand Traverse Industries. Their goal is to move services away from the facility in Mansalona and out into the broader community. And if this is state mandated, it won't be long before Northern Lakes will probably have to do the same for the GTI location in Traverse City. As my son at age 43 is still diapered, needs help with feeding and transport to and from his wheelchair, and is nonverbally, he would certainly not qualify for a job in the greater community. Yet he does have a job within the GTI facility that works for him, and he even earns a small paycheck. As parents, this is more than we ever would have been able to hope for. To change funding and basically close the Mansalona and Traverse City GTI facilities would be a huge detriment to our son and to so many of the others in this community. I implore you to stop model changes that are being explored for the redesign of Michigan's community mental health system as we know it today, which would prioritize only community-based services and end the in-facility services that my son relies on. GTI is where my son finds his community and his dignity despite all of his disabilities. This is his community, and we can't let community mental health take that away. I understand if the big, beautiful bill is passed and Medicaid needs to be cut.
Thank you, Nancy.
But
unfortunately, 3 minutes are up.
okay, thank you.
Thank you. Yes, ma'am.
Hello, my name is Donna DeBoer. live in Elmwood Township, and I'm the mother of my 49-year-old daughter, Heather DeBoer. Heather was born with Down syndrome and a serious cardiac condition that required open heart surgery. She also has other numerous health conditions, including dementia. She attends Grand Traverse Industries 4 days a week. GTI is a lifeline for our daughter, where she is supported and treated with respect. 150 individuals with varying disabilities attend GTI each week, learning job skills, activities of daily living, and social skills. It is a place that gives her great joy and purpose. GTI clients also serve in the community as volunteers for Father Fred, Salvation Army, Goodwill, and many more. With the proposed cuts to Medicaid, Heather's funding for attending GTI, living in her loving group home, and her Medicaid-supported health insurance are threatened. There are also concerns that the state of Michigan may make cuts to programs like GTI. We are advocating for Heather and the other 150 individuals who utilize the services at GTI. Please join us and stand up for those who have no voice.
Gentleman back, yes.
Scott Richards, Green Lake Township. I'm here on behalf of Axe My Tax. It's a petition drive to get rid of property tax because people are being taxed out of their homes. Last year, Michigan started.
It's not on our agenda.
That's correct, yeah, you guys. We're not discussing that on the agenda, you have 5 minutes at the end of the meeting to.
Oh, I'm sorry. I apologize.
Any other members out there with public comment? Yes, Mr. Kowski?
Good morning. Item 9B on the agenda. As an ordinary citizen trying to understand this more. It's an item to address early childhood programs, and we're curious whether this is part of the original millage plan or objective to have these items included at all. Because the millage was self-initiated by the commissioners, not by the people. The people did not lawfully petition for this millage at all. It was something that was foisted on the people by the commissioners. So we'd like to understand that if these items for consideration on the agenda today will be have been part of the original plan for the early childhood millage. On another item, we left with you a copy of an ad we discovered in the Record Eagle regarding Mr. Dyer's running for the chairman office. And we were curious if the commission is interested in finding out what it's all about.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Any other public comment? All right, thank you. That will move on to commissioner comments. Any commissioner comments? Commissioner Robbins?
Just a couple of events coming up. Thursday at 4 o'clock is the Habitat New Waves groundbreaking for phase 2. I believe, correct me, Mr. Dyer, if I'm wrong, but I think you're one of the main speakers there.
I think
That's what I read.
Asked me to come,
So
yes.
that's at 4 o'clock. That project, about two more houses will start in March, and that project will be completed. The next one is next Tuesday from 10 to 2 at Suttons Bay High School as a senior expo. So I just wanted to get that out there. So that's it.
Yeah, I actually asked that this early childhood on 9B be on the thing, and talked with Michelle Klein here and asked her to present. So I would like if we could move it forward on the agenda. I know it's been approved, but I'd like, if we could move it up to at least say between 4 and 5.
Can't we just, is it possible to just move it up under the first action item?
Yes, we could. I mean, that's, the higher the better, I think, but
Are you talking about all 9B, 1, 2, and 3, or just,
yes,
okay,
all of 9B.
okay. We can do that, I can put that up, and do that right away. Mr. Elgar?
There's a feed update on Friday from the My High office, so I imagine, I'm hoping they will say that the deed money is still available, so we can complete our coverage of the county for broadband, because we still have people waiting who are counting on being. I'll report what they say next Tuesday.
Yeah, a couple things here. I understand, and Mr. Dyer and I have talked about this. Hopefully, when we get together for our meeting, I really don't feel comfortable with it being. I've seen other bodies, and I'm not saying this is planned for here, have like these retreats. And I think that makes it difficult for the public to participate. And I think, so anyways, I just, my personal thought is I don't want to go someplace and have lunch, for lack of a better, that's my view. I know the idea is to make it casual, but for me, it's still a business meeting. Last meeting, I had hoped to get the budget process along further and asked that we have a discussion at this meeting about it. That didn't happen. I would have, asked for ways, we're asking for how to get it going. And I would say one way is for us to communicate what our priorities are, say our top 3 priorities for the next budget, just to set that tone for what we're looking to do, whether it be, in the self-serving world, maybe I would say some more money for parks. In my conservative leanings, I would say to hold the growth to the level of inflation or less, those types of conversations. Anyways, I was hoping we could do that at this particular meeting. I'd like to incorporate the CIP and the DTR into the budget process. But and also previously I talked about building permit fees for smaller houses. And as the building, have you guys looked at that at all? Set a meeting, or it was referred to I believe the building safety committee.
There's been nothing that I'm aware of.
I'm not sure if it takes a motion by this board, but I did think it did at the last meeting, but it's almost a month later and we're exactly the same spot. So I would ask or request that be taken up. And I don't know if that takes a motion. I hope not to go there. The other thing that my last request is to Mr. Dyer, I would like to have a written report from our administrator. It gives us a little heads up before we get here. I know other governments that I've covered, that's how that's come, that's how that's been communicated. And it, as I say, it gives us, I just like the written word, can only be, I'm just one of 7, but I think it would be helpful for this board to, rather than have a verbal report at the meeting, to have something in our packet that's a written report. So we could give it a little forethought in case it requires forethought. I'm not complaining about the report itself. I'm not lodging complaints against content. I just think it's a better form of communication.
Right, so to address a few of the points you said about the training session, that's what you brought up is exactly what I want this board to have with our administrator, where we can have those discussions and set goals with him. And my intent was, it was I brought this up to administrator to do this, I wanted to get him a couple months under the job.
Sure.
So he can get his feet on the ground running and then have a meeting with the entire board here, along with maybe a presenter, kind of walk us through that process and help us set goals, and then how to communicate better together with our administrator, where he knows where we're coming from and he can set goals that he wants from us.
Right.
So that's something, yeah, that, that's why he even brought it up, was because of that.
No,
Also,
I
a lot
agree
of
with the
that-
concept.
Right.
I'm just,
Right.
I've
So a
seen
lot
it
of-
in other forms.
Right.
And,
And that's something to bring up at that session, as to how we want that done type of thing, because that's something that we'll be open to talking about here when we have that session.
so the session will be here.
Correct, yeah.
Okay, that's.
Yep, no, it'll be here, it'll be open to the public,
That- very good.
and,
It'll
yep,
be an open meeting, subject to notice and all of that. Yeah.
It would be anyways, but I've just seen them like held at conference centers and things like that.
no, it's,
That is.
I'm not expecting to go to a resort or anything or make fun, so.
No,
This is our duty, so.
ham sandwiches, no roast beef.
I don't know about that.
And then as far as the budget process, that's something I talked with our administrator as well, and he suggested sitting down with you all individually to get that process, and then I requested him to come back in July with a process that he's accumulated from everybody here, and lay that out, and then have an open board discussion going forward and possibly set meeting dates at that time in July. So that's kind of, you wanted to sit down with everybody individually and kind of get everybody's mindset with that, and then compose that all into one proposal for July meeting.
And how will staff be, are you gonna also sit down with staff to involve them?
In fact, we have it scheduled to address all those issues. Yeah.
This is back to Commissioner comment.
Yes.
I want to just thank the three parents that came and talked to us, and that wasn't easy for them. I've met Trevor, and this is personal now. I understand the deficit, and I understand trying to reduce taxes, but reckless dismantling of programs without forethought is criminal. And I urge us to know that there's also other ways to reduce deficits, and that's have a fair tax system. And make sure that there are some people that aren't paying any taxes at the high end of the economy that ought to be paying more. And the reckless stuff, dismantling of our social safety networks is criminal. That's personal, and thanks for listening.
Thank you.
I thank you for that comment, because yes, that $2 trillion yearly deficit is going to, because billionaires don't want to pay their taxes. So I don't approve of dismantling programs just so the very rich can get richer. Thank you.
All right, thank you.
We need a break.
We can take wow, we're at 11. Yep, we'll take how about an 8-minute break? What's 5 or 10
Why
minutes?
you
So I split
die?
the difference.
I know, it is. It really is.
I thought you were passing.
No, I should. Everyone's got their own. I have to be mindful. Yeah, I was really
Yeah, well, anyway. And that was gonna take credit for that.
I should have, but I think that we, as a board, need to set parameters before they come, so they know the expectations. As is,
I got John.
This year, based on what we think we have for revenue, rate of inflation.
No. All right, we're back in order. Gonna start out with our number one action item, which is on our current agenda is 9B, early childhood program. Moving up to our first action item. I'm gonna let something that Commissioner Bonnie requested. I'll kind of let him be on this. I'm not sure what he's expecting of this. He doesn't have anything on the packet necessarily, so I'll let you.
We got, what I'm hoping to do is that we can enhance the early childhood development program, you know, and actually help to increase children's participation in the program. So I had a couple of ideas, and I also had gone to United We Smile, you know, and talked with the director and the head of United Way, and, you know, and thought that, so I put these three items together and hoping that we can help increase, I mean, the money's there, and hopefully we can get more children to be involved and help children better. So I actually had a motion here. I don't know if you put the motion on the floor, then we could talk about that. You know, and see if it can get supported. In order to enhance the EDC program and increase children's participation, I move that we recommend that the Leelanau County Board of Commissioners direct county administration to research and use the early childhood education village to provide child care vouchers for children 0 to 6 years old and prenatal care for children in the womb, and present potential programs, policies, and procedures to the Board of Commissioners at our July executive board meeting.
Second.
Right.
So I know that's a mouthful, and we can separate them out if somebody wants to, but I just thought we could do it all at once if we want.
Okay. Okay, so we have a motion with support, discussion, Commissioner Algar. Question.
So you said the county administrator to do it, or Michelle Klein?
Well, he would do the policies and the programs. I would hope he would work with Michelle to develop it, you know, or do you think it would be better if it went through the health department?
Well, I mean, that would be your decision. Certainly, when you're talking about, well, both those items, we would love to serve pregnant women during, you know, with our early childhood funds. And it would be very easy to integrate that with our current policies and procedures and things that we do and services. So that would be easy. We'd love it. I'd have to look at our contract language to see if it specifies. We might have to do an amendment if it isn't in there, but otherwise that's not a problem. The early childhood vouchers, we would have to talk about how that works. That's possible. You know, I think about, we have a system in place. So for example, Power Book Bags submits like a funding request and how it fits with the mission and fits with the millage. And then we approve it or not approve it. And then we can pay that money. We could do something with childcare scholarships if you wanted to filter that through the Parenting Communities program to approve those or do whatever we want to do with those, as opposed to the county. That would really be up to you what that looks like. So we would have to create some policies and how that would work.
Maybe I can address that a little bit. When this first came up, really with a request from United We Smile for funding for their program. Their request is actually in your packet for consideration. And in that process, I did a few things. We reviewed the language of the original ballot proposal that funds the millage, reviewed all the legal opinions that were received regarding that millage back when it was originally proposed. And also I had a conversation about whether United We Smile would interfere with the programs that the health department or the health department currently does now, and whether it would interfere with their funding if we were to consider funding a program up to, say, $60,000, which was their request. So yes, I've been working with health department on this issue since it first arose, and would continue to do so, of course. The reason that I like the suggestion of Commissioner Bunning is it gives us the opportunity to explore a world of potential opportunities to use that currently unused fund balance. So I think it would be certainly appropriate and support the motion as something that would task me to do.
You know, and I will just share if I can offer my opinion here, really. When it comes to oral health and United We Smile, we know that for children in particular, to find a dental provider is difficult. And if you're a child that has autism or any kind of difficulties, it's nearly impossible. So that's a great organization. They're doing really good work and clearly is related to the health and well-being of our children.
I indicated that in the EDS that is before you, because that was the thing that impressed me the most when I visited. I know Commissioner Bunnick did, and as did Commissioner Yoder. They have specialized training to specifically address.
Well, I wanted, that's not in this motion.
No, I know.
And I'll make that other motion.
No, I understand.
Okay, so I thought we could have that discussion then. And
But
stick with
I'm
this topic.
just commenting on this client's comment about the importance of and how oral health does dovetail very nicely with programs that they do.
Commissioner Wessel.
I'm certainly going to vote yes for this. I like that. The third one, the childcare vouchers, worries me a little bit. So I hope you'll work with the parenting communities folks and figure out a way to do it so that I mean, it could be very costly. Well, and so there's got to be a process, and I don't know what that is.
That's why I like particularly the motion proposed by Commissioner Bunnick. It gives me the opportunity to research and explore all that, present you alternatives as to how such a program might actually be fundable.
And do work with the parenting communities group because they've got a lot invested in this.
I've already made some inquiries regarding that.
All right, any other discussion on that motion?
Oh, yeah, at the beginning, could you read just the beginning of the motion? I'm sorry.
Well, in order to enhance the early childhood development program and increase children's participation.
Keep going.
I move that we recommend that the Leelanau County Board of Commissioners direct the county administration to research and use the early childhood education millage to provide child care vouchers to children ages 0 to 6 and prenatal care for children in the womb, and present potential programs, policies, and procedures to the Board of Commissioners at our July executive board meeting.
Did that say research and use? Or research to use?
Yeah, research to use.
Okay, I'm sorry. I thought at the first time you said and use, which would say a little bit different than research to. I'm sorry.
All right, Commissioner Algar.
So I didn't hear you say United We Smile prenatal care. I heard you say child care vouchers and prenatal
I have
care.
a different motion for United We Smile. These are the.
This is just
these are the-
research. Okay.
Yes, and that's why, the other one would be more of an action. This is just to move something forward the next month, so you're aware, and that, rather than just making because we didn't have any information about it. So I'm just trying to get it so that we know what's gonna happen, and if you have any input, you can help them out. I knew we had the voucher system for senior services. So I figured if we have voucher systems, so we could have one for early childhood as well.
All right, any other discussion? Not, all in favor of that motion, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say nay. Carried 7-0.
Thank you. So then I have another motion here. It says, I move that we recommend that the Leelanau County Board of Commissioners appropriate, and I put $3,000 a month to the United We Smile program, authorize the use of early childhood education village fund for that appropriation, and make it and all the budget amendments necessary to complete the appropriation.
Second.
All right, it's been motion support, discussion, Commissioner Algar.
Does that work with you?
Well, it's not my decision, but it's certainly, as I said, a really valuable cause. We're not, for parenting communities right now, we're not using all of the full, the full millage amount that you all can collect. And if there's money sitting in the bank, basically, that's a great cause.
That was
I wouldn't.
originally, as I said, that was the inquiry I directed to the health department as to whether, again, the request from United We Smile was $5,000 a month, $60,000. So I asked if that would interfere with their funding. They would not be involved administratively in administering the program. We would just fund United We Smile. They would do all the administration and provide the dental care that frankly they're already providing. We're just proposing to support something that's already being done. They've provided $90,000 in free or low cost dental care to Leelanau County residents already since their program has been, since it's at the inception of their program, without really hardly any advertising or marketing that program at all. You really should, I would encourage you all to take a visit and see a significantly modern dental clinic. These are, and all the local dentists that participate there are preceptors for, and basically clinical professors at the University of Michigan, and they have dental students come out and they're getting training to do this kind of dentistry for again, they focus on children, pregnant women, and seniors. That's the seniors and veterans. That's the focus of their program.
Mr. Bunny?
Yeah, when I visited there, they talked about Grand Traverse County gives them $12,000 a month. And so then I looked at our population is 1/4 of what Grand Traverse County is. But as Michelle pointed out to me, that the children, we're actually 1/5 as many children. They have, over 5,000. We have 1,000 of this age group. So that's how I came up with the amount. I went with basically 1/5 of what Grand Traverse County gives, we could give. And that came to about $2,900. So I just rounded it to 3,000. So because we can be a little more generous. So that's how I came up with the figure. I know they asked for 60,000. So this is 36,000, but that's still very generous, and it's more generous than Grand Traverse County is being. That's how I came up with that. And all the things that our administrator said are true. Plus, they really can help children who are disorderly or are very resistant, because they have a system in which they can actually, they will bind them up so that they can't fight with the dentist, and they can do the dental work that has to be done. I mean, it's done in a very, very good way with the parents' approval, so that they can work on it. And it's critical work, because the health of the children can really be determined by dental work.
Mr. Wessel?
And of course I like it, but I want to make sure that we don't spend early childhood dollars on not early childhood. So we're going to need to make sure we get numbers and make sure that early kids are getting $3,000 worth of treatment.
Right, and that's a good concern, because they do 0 to 8 years old. That's what they do, and they consider that early childhood. So we would have to be, and you had mentioned something about pay as we go or when we talk?
Oh, well, that there would be an option, it would be much more cumbersome if they had, if they had a child, a Leelanau County child that received services and needed support for that child, that it would be here's this child and, that kind of thing, and fill out something, some form to track that. So it would be, as I said, you'd have to administer that, right? How are you gonna decide what you pay and don't pay? Or is it a price per child? But that would be up to you all, how you wanted to define that. I mean, maybe they just give you a quarterly report and this is how many Leelanau County children we saw. And then there's a reimbursement rate based on that.
And I believe they said that they do income assessments for doing their work. So they don't do every child. They have to meet certain income criteria, I believe. The veterans don't.
They do bill insurance as well. But I know also, I'm sure what they're looking at is, just the backbone support for running the agency on top of the insurance billing, that's quite involved.
Gerard's. What is our balance? I mean, it's been what, 5 years now?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
do you know what actually what we have?
Oh, I am not in charge of the money, so I have no idea.
I'll answer that in an email to the board. I can respond.
I know the parenting communities program this last year was, I believe it was around 740,000, 760,000, somewhere in there. So, but I think that what you could collect through the millage was a couple $100,000 more than that, I believe. Yeah.
The last time I looked at it, it was about 600,000. That's the fund balance. I'm sure it's different than that now.
It rings a bell, but I'd like to check.
I appreciate it. Commissioner Campbell? Then I'll go with Commissioner Albert.
So we are restricted by this millage, so there has to be more record keeping than simply throw it into their general fund, because we have an obligation to keep it for 6 years old and on. So somehow that's what the millage says, is 6 and under, so we can spend it on 8-year-olds.
No specific age in the millage language, but there is an opinion, there was an opinion, there is an opinion from legal counsel that 0 to 8 is a likely, there's no real definition in this, in any state statute. 0 to 8 is considered a likely early child.
I stand corrected. I thought it said 0 to 6, up to 6 years old in the middle.
I've been told that as well, and I have got a copy of the actual ballot itself, and it does not say that. It also does address issues like I don't know that it specifically said dental, as I recall, but it does address.
Said health, I think. I looked
Basically,
at
any health, including mental health, frankly.
Yeah. Well, I was wondering that when
Behavioral and
community
mental
mental health was here,
Yes, it does.
that was
It
in
does.
the back of my mind, that you might be able to, with $600,000.
But the one thing when I approached some members of that actually initially advanced this millage, in particular, Commissioner Patricia Sotis Little, she actually provided me with a lot of research information that suggests early childhood for medical and even mental health problems is even that the definition has expanded a little bit beyond even age 8. So there's a lot of research out there that suggests that, particularly with behavioral health, that because the childhood brain is not anywhere near developed what it needs to be in not just early adolescence, but even early adulthood, that behavioral care for younger children older than 8 would still be considered early childhood. So there's a lot of developing research regarding that, what that definition can and should be. And really, you're the ones that are responsible for determining what that definition, how that definition should be applied to the millage.
Commissioner Albert?
I would just like to make a note, I support this. The United We Smile did say they needed 5,000. So I hope we will keep that in mind, watch the development of their ability to raise money. We also, in our general fund, could supply a couple $1,000s a month if they were short, because that is a really important service for our residents. We have a lot of adults out there too.
You may wish to consider advancing this for plenary consideration at your next meeting and have a representative of the United We Smile here to discuss the very issues you're talking about in terms of what their budget is, how much of their the services that they provided in Leelanau County were actually early childhood and adolescent care. I'm sure they'd be willing to do that.
That's a good idea.
Mr. Wessel?
Yeah, and I was going to say, I think we need a contract with them. And not a donation of $3,000 a month, but we're providing this much money for this many kids, and there'd be some annual accounting for it, so that we protect ourselves, and because we got to get this early childhood millage renewed at some point, we got to spend it wisely.
It may not have been in the millage language, I didn't look that up, but that's how this millage was promoted. The millage will raise over $700,000 per year for 5 years to help pay for early childhood ages 0 through 6 programs and services.
Where was that?
This is part of the material from leelanauearlychildhood.org. So I think we owe a responsibility to folks who voted on that millage to stick with what we promised, even if there may be some wiggle room, if you will, to expand the definition compared to how it was promoted.
Yeah, like I said, I can assure you that the actual ballot language itself does not have that language in it. Very carefully review that.
Commissioner Algar and Commissioner Walter, and then we're gonna.
And I would just suggest that the ballot language is what really counts, because not everybody.
I would suggest more people read this than the ballot language.
Well, actually, when you vote, that's.
Commissioner Walter?
This is just a motion to get a progress, not debate the issue. So I would just motion, call the question.
I was gonna do that.
Because we'll talk all day about this. It's not on the agenda, it's not, a final resolution is not on the agenda, it's just an idea that we'll talk about in the future.
All right. With that in mind, we have a motion on the floor. All those in favor?
Would you read the motion?
Yep.
Are we doing the call to question?
Call the question first.
Well, I was gonna call a question right after Commissioner Walter stated, but we can go ahead with that normal process, I guess. So all in favor of calling the question, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. Motion carries 7-0. All right, now reread the motion.
I move that we recommend that the Leelanau County Board of Commissioners appropriate $3,000 a month to the United We Smile program, authorize the use of early childhood education village fund for that appropriation, and make all budgeted amendments necessary to complete the appropriation.
Second.
Second.
Can I amend? A proposed amendment?
Can we amend after call the question?
I
Or
don't think.
No.
It's already passed the call of questions.
right, so all in favor of that motion, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say nay.
Which you'll have
Motion
next.
carried 7-0.
So, and I'll have somebody from United We Smile here to give a presentation regarding their program and how it relates to early childhood dental care.
Thank you
All
very
right,
much.
thank you, Michelle.
Thanks, Phil. Thanks for bringing it up.
All right, back to our agenda, back to what's on our agenda is item number 1, which is workers' compensation renewal. That's the administrator that can. What's that?
Yes, what you have before you The workers' compensation renewal really is on page 15 of your packet. And the highlights of that, I get to my notes. As you may be aware, the premiums for workers' compensation insurance are based solely on what your payroll is, both current and projected. And then there's a rate applied for each level or each type of employee. For example, you see on page 17, the rate per $100 of payroll for a police officer is $1.46 per $100 of payroll. For an attorney, it's 3 cents. I guess that tells you the value of police officers versus attorneys, perhaps. But I won't belabor that point too much. The most important thing that I want to point out to you is under the section called premium calculations. It's the experience, or what's called the experience rate or merit modification. And that is at a 0.67. Basically, what they do is they take your payroll, multiply it by the rate, and then multiply that amount by your experience. So you're actually getting a 34% reduction on what your premium would be if you hadn't had good experience over time with a limited number of workers' compensation claims. When I looked at last year's renewal, and again, this renewal runs from July 1 of 2025 through July 1 of 2026. When I looked at last year's renewal, the experience modification in the previous year had been 0.88. So the experience wasn't quite as good. It's gotten much better. The amount that you budgeted for this in the current budget year is $65,000. The amount of the premium currently is 46. That does not mean you should change your budget. In fact, you should keep that budget where it's at, because the way workers' compensation insurance works is that you get a renewal premium. That's what you're expected to pay now, $46,763. And then at the end of the year, you get audited. You get audited every year based upon your claims, the actual payroll versus what the projected payroll was. You're going to pay a little bit more. You're going to pay an audit premium in addition to the renewal premium. And that could be within I would expect it to be within the $65,000 amount currently budgeted. In the last year, it was $61,000 was the expiring premium, and our renewal premium for the current year that we're in, that ends in July, it was $51,000. Again, we'll have another audit sometime after the premium year ends, but that's the information for your consideration. I would encourage you to adopt the renewal premium as presented.
I move to recommend that the County Board of Commissioners approve the proposal for renewal of the workers' compensation insurance coverage through Accident Fund National and High Street Insurance as presented.
Second.
All right, motion made, supported, discussion.
Is Mr. Muth here? He says.
No, I should have mentioned that he had a personal family emergency. I talked to him yesterday and got the information that I presented to you, and he was regretted that he couldn't be here, but that emergency kept him away, unfortunately.
All right, any other discussion? Not, all in favor of that motion, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say nay. Motion carried 7-0. All right, next up, we have the Sheriff's Office. And number one is Animal Control Contract with Grand Traverse Band.
Can I just go back for a second? When's the last time we went out for bids on workers' comp? Why these folks? I just know when I do all for bids, I always seem to do a lot better than current. Or is that something we could put on the agenda maybe for
basically what I understand, the High Street Insurance and Financial Services is our agent. They actually review numerous policies for us and then make this recommendation and represent to us that that's their best recommendation. But we could certainly do a bidding process that's preference.
Kind of makes sense, and not, for the next one. Can be beneficial.
Right, Mr. Money?
Yeah, and I think Commissioner Cameron's right, because the last time I know that, when I was here and we went out, it saved almost $10,000. So you can get reduced quite a bit if you go out.
All right, so we'll just make a note of that for next year, I guess. All right, Mr. Kiesel.
So the first thing I have for you is a renewal of the contract for animal control services with the Grand Traverse Band. It's only a 1-year extension. I wish it was longer, but I don't know if it was this board or not, but come October 1st of 2026, Cherry Land Humane Society is changing the way they operate. So we are going to be forced to change the way we operate, whether we are contracted with them, or I've had talks with Grand Traverse and Benzie. They're going to be in the same boat we are. They're not going to operate with or through government agencies anymore. So until that time, this is just continuing our services with the band for the next year. They provide a nominal fee to us for us to handle their complaints, which are very few over the course of a year, but still handled by us. So that's what this is. The contract language has been to the county attorney for review, but the only thing that changed were the dates, extending it 1 year. So.
Mr. Wassel?
I move to recommend that the County Board of Commissioners approve the 1-year contract extension with the Grand Traverse Band of Iowa Chippewa Indian Tribe to provide animal control services for a period of October 1, 2025 to September 30, 2026. We also authorize the board chair to sign the agreement.
Second.
Board discussion, Mr. Money?
Yeah, when you say next year, does that mean January of 26 or?
So the current contract we have with the Humane Society runs through September 30th of 26. And then there is a 90-day extension window under different terms. Once we hit the end of 2026, it is yet to be determined. I mean, like, they're changing their rates, and essentially they do not want to deal with not just us, but any government agency anymore, is the way I understood it. I haven't talked with them in a couple months now, but I have not gotten anything that they're changing that stance. So we're still working on it, and it's fluid. Benzie is trying to work a situation and figure it out. Grand Traverse is too. For those two counties, it's a little different because they both operate their own facilities, if you will, which obviously we do not have. So we may be forced to go through one of those counties if they figure out which avenue they're going to take. So I'm really not looking forward to it, but that's just part of the job.
Any other discussion?
How many dogs can you fit in a patrol car?
In the patrol car, it's tough, more than one, I'll tell you. Miss Deputy Kelchik can probably take up to 6 in his truck, but yeah, very short term. And then obviously we have an outdoor kennel over by the pole barn,
Yeah,
and then we have an indoor in the Sally Port too for extreme weather situations.
All right, any other discussion? None? All in favor of that motion, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say nay. Motion carried 7-0.
All right, the next one, this is the, I think, 4th time we've presented on this and made this ask. This is to go in partnership with NMC, actually ask for the grant through MCOLS to provide an employed recruit through the college at NMC. Like I said, this is the 4th time we have had finally our first successful recruit who graduated in May, is training, is doing excellent. We'll move along, and we currently have 2 scheduled to start at the end of August to fill the other 2 prior asks. And this is for a 3rd that would also go in August to try to help us get up to speed with our staffing levels, although they will not be really available to us till probably April of next year, but we have to start somewhere.
Commissioner Robbins?
I move to recommend that the county board of commissioners allow the sheriff's office to hire a third employee to recruit and to also allow the sheriff's office to enter the public safety assistance program / grant process with Michigan Commission of Law Enforcement Standards and Northwestern Michigan College for the police academy that starts in August of 2025.
Support.
Supported by Commissioner Algar, discussion? Not, all in favor of that motion, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say nay. Motion carries 7-0.
Thank you very much.
I hope they do well.
We have good candidates, that's for sure.
All right, next up, item number 3, emergency management. What do we got on that here?
Good morning. All right, so we did have a successful RFP process for the dispatch console replacement project. We received 5 proposals from 4 different vendors. Interestingly enough, one of the vendors who provided 2 proposals utilized the same setup as one of the other vendors. So we, in a sense, had 3 different consoles that we could select from. Unfortunately for the vendor that's submitted the 2 proposals, they're both more expensive than the factory vendor. So kind of put them out of the running, to be honest. So based on the selection process, we weighed the elements of the proposals, and all of them were fairly good. Based on the feedback we got from the selection committee and the dispatchers, I'm ready to propose for the Board of Commissioners to approve with going with the Zybex as the vendor. And if there's any questions, I'd be happy to address them.
Mr. Wessel?
I move that the county board of commissioners award the 911 dispatch remodeling project to X Systems Incorporated in an amount not to exceed $145,000. Funds to come from capital project building fund contingency ending in .891 and allow the board chairman to sign the necessary contract paperwork.
Support. All right, supported, discussion? Commissioner Bunting.
Yeah, I just, when I looked through it, it looked like there was at least one that was a little bit less. Is that in the base? Is there a reason that didn't work out?
The lesser proposal didn't have a desirable configuration for the consoles. They had a smaller working space, really. So it did affect their overall proposal score. They ended up scoring about the same as what Zybex did, and Zybex had a better working area, better ergonomic setup for the dispatchers.
Yeah, Bill?
Yeah, I think that was kind of a square foot thing. Now I gotta remember what I was gonna ask. So this motion would use up to $145,000 from the capital projects building fund. And we received a grant of $59,000.
Correct.
So, and if that's so is that the total price of the project is 140?
Yeah, I don't, we should not go over 145. It's total.
But not all of that will need to come from the capital improvement plan. So I'm not sure if that motion is accurate as far as the source of the funding. Maybe I walk all off on this. I don't know how the money gets switched around.
Sure, the 2% allocation is sitting in the gaming fund right now, waiting for this project. So we'll be moving that gaming money into the project fund 470. So my question is the 470,891, it's a contingent transfer from DTR, waiting for the bids to come in. So am I going to be moving the net of the 145 less the gaming revenue from DTR to 470?
Yeah,
Because I think 145 less 60,000, let's say, 150 minus 60, 90,000 from DTR rather than 145.
that would be my understanding. So the
that's,
90,000 plus the 2% should equal the
Okay.
145.
Because when we
Or another way, what you're going to do is take the grant money and put it into the capital.
That's exactly what I said. Yeah.
That's what you want to do?
Yeah, we're gonna, because we moved the funding to the project from gaming, which would be, rounding 60,000. And then to fund the rest of that contract, the bid of 145 will take we set up a contingency to move money from DTR. We didn't actually move the money yet because we didn't have a project.
Right.
Now you'll have a project and we'll bring the balance from DTR.
And because I did see they were one of the few bidders, I think they required half up front before they got here. And the others were much more lenient on that. They trusted us, maybe, I don't know. All right, well, as long as you guys, I didn't know if the motion was appropriate, all coming from that fund, so
I think we'll tweak the motion a bit.
by next week, you mean?
Sure.
Yeah.
Okay, thanks.
So you know exactly where.
Tomorrow, this is gotta vote no, we can talk about it then.
Oh, because otherwise we can just request that it come down off the consent agenda and put on the regular agenda. Right? Yeah, okay.
Yes, we do that.
Thank you.
Sure. You're welcome.
Any other discussion? All right, not, all in favor of that motion, say aye. All opposed, say nay. Motion carries 7-0.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Matt. All right, next up, we have probate and family court. We got Cameron here.
Hi, everyone. This is the time of year where I come and ask for approval of the child care fund budget. Obviously, it is early than the rest of your budgets because the state requires that these be received at the state in a timely fashion so that they can be approved prior to the fiscal year beginning. So I provided you with an EDS and a budget summary for your perusal, and I'll take any questions that you have on this. I can say off the top, it's very similar to last year's. It's very dissimilar to say 3 years ago when we spent a whole lot of money on institutional care. And we spend a lot less on that now, which is a good thing. We also, as opposed to 3 years ago, we're also saving the county an awful lot of money now because we have moved positions that used to be in the general fund budget are now in the child care fund budget, which means they can be reimbursed at 75%. General fund budgets aren't reimbursable. So our expenditures are similar. Our reimbursements are tremendously higher.
Motion, Commissioner Wessel?
Can I ask a question before you get a motion on the floor? Or do you want a motion?
Love that motion, so
We have a separate sheet here for the motion.
right. It's a handout.
I motion to recommend approval of the child care fund annual plan and budget in the amount of $855,880 for Leelanau County fiscal year, October 1, 2025 through September 30th, 2026.
Second.
Moved and supported, Commissioner Wessel?
My question is, if we don't spend this much,
Yeah.
it goes back into the general fund.
Well,
So we're not committing it, but we're just protecting it in case we need it.
that's right. And at least in my 3 or 4 years here now, we've never exceeded the amount that you've approved.
Any other discussion? Yeah, Bill?
Comparison to last year, is that about, I mean?
It's a little higher. Things are more expensive than they were then.
10, 20,000, I have no idea.
It's about 40,000, I think, higher than last year.
I'm sorry, did you say 20?
40.
40,000.
Yeah.
All right, any other discussion? All right, if not, all in favor of that motion, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say nay. Carried 7-0.
And again, I'll just keep the open invitation. If anybody ever wants to learn more about the child care fund, it is an animal into itself. And I am always glad and excited to talk about it. I just don't want to do it. I don't want to give you a 101 in a public meeting because it would probably break the internet, I'm sure.
Thank you, Cameron.
Thank you for your work.
Good seeing y'all.
Good seeing you. Thank you.
All right, next up, we have planning, which is an Eagle Strap Tire Grant. Gail, here's a. You want to address?
I suppose I can.
Oh, here she comes.
All right, I'm ready for you.
What I have today is the scrap tire cleanup grant from Eagle. I received word that we were awarded $6,000. I don't have the grant agreement yet. As of May 30th, they were preparing those agreements, so I'm hoping to receive it by next Tuesday.
Stronger.
I move to recommend that the County Board of Commissioners accept the 2025 scrap tire cleanup grant agreement between Leelanau County and Eagle.
Support, discussion.
Does that, the grant's 8,000, we got $2 per tire, does that pretty well pay for the program?
Was 6,000, I think we're getting, same as last year.
Might be my glasses here. Let me see here, yes, I'm sorry, 6,000 plus the $2 per tire,
Yeah, it does cover.
does it?
Both collections.
Any other discussion? All right. Not, all in favor of the motion, say aye. Opposed, say nay. 7-0.
Can I just ask, are we doing a good job of getting the old tires cleaned up? We've been doing this for a few years.
Yeah, we've been doing it since 2019. Every year we've been filling 2 semis. And a semi holds about 1,000 tires.
Wow.
So,
People keep driving every year.
Well, it's the big piles we were used to talk about.
Will this be held at the Travis parking lot again?
No, not this year.
What will it be this year?
This year we had one here in May, and then coming up, I think in a week or so, it's going to be at the Golden Lake School.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, next up, yeah, finance, go for it.
Yeah, I'm asking Gail to stay here. This is definitely tied to her office and Lydia's presentation earlier. Eagle did approve your intergovernmental agreement. We had submitted the budget as she indicated last summer. This is the actual grant application for us to get that 81,000. And it's an application and an acceptance all in one document. And so that will give us the funding we need to pay the invoices that come from Grand Traverse County as our direct DPA.
I move to recommend that the Leelanau County Board of Commissioners approve the submission of Eagle Grant Agreement as presented for project MMP Leelanau NNW2 project number PLA-25-00026 in the amount of $81,150.50, which requires no matching funds, and we accept the award of $81,150.50 authorizing for chair to sign same with grant funds appropriated to fund 572 to pay Grand Traverse County for contractual services rendered for MMP interlocal agreement.
Second.
Supported, discussion. Mr. Money?
Yeah, I was mentioned earlier about the loss of local control. I mean, I do think our solid waste council is doing a very good job. I think we have that, the per household. And it doesn't sound like there's any provision in this, to work. It sounds like we're gonna just move to Grand Traverse counties, whatever their plan is. We're gonna have to live with that. And that I guess really concerns me. And then on top of it, it's you pay and then you get reimbursed. And at some point that's gonna stop because they've got to come up with how you're gonna fund it. And the only mention was grants, and then if that doesn't happen, then what goes? And so I don't know if we can go back to just being Leelanau County, but I would rather that we do that than try to go with this, group type thing that seems very, very, I guess.
Yeah, I've gone to 2 other meetings now. The next meeting of the group is in this building.
Friday.
Friday. the grant, the $80,000 grant we're gonna use to write the plan. And if we would have done it on our own, it would have been 60,000, I think. So we got a little bit more to work with them. When we're done with the plan, the process, we could have that plan be a just a Leelanau County plan. But we're developing, this is my understanding, but we're developing the plan for the other two counties, and so we can learn from each other. But there may be something in Grand Traverse final plan that's not in ours, or vice versa. So is that not correct?
What's going to be one plan?
But we can adapt because they're talking about in Traverse City with denser population, they might do one thing. And in the rural
Correct.
areas, something.
Yes.
So we'll have say on that when it comes to the board. But the grant money is to pay for the plan that's required.
To be
by state
developed
law.
and, yeah.
Right. Well, I guess my point is we could have had $60,000 to write our own plan. Now we have $80,000 for 3 counties. So we actually got less. You know, in my figuring.
Well, the other
No,
counties got the 80,000.
Each
too.
county,
We
yeah.
all get 81,000.
Actually, there's
well,
more because it's based,
yeah.
the bonus is
Okay.
based on population per
So it's
capita.
gonna be 200 and some $1,000 for the plan.
It's in there. I have to get it.
I
I
think
wasn't
it's
concerned about it.
$277,755 without burying one garbage can. That's for a plan. I mean, just doesn't sound overly efficient at this particular stage.
Yeah, the total grant is 277,000, as Commissioner Campbell said. Benzie's going to receive 78,985, and Grand Traverse County will be 117 of the grant money, and we're getting the 81,000. So we're all three retrieving grant money from Eagle for this process.
This is for people to talk and write up a plan. $277,000.
Well, yeah,
There'd be
we're not spending
great
all of
big
that
beautiful
on,
plan.
It's gonna get,
only a portion is going to be spent on the consultant.
and we already have our own solid waste council. So it's a plan.
Go ahead. Yeah.
You know, one thing I think you have to take into consideration, particularly if you were to consider having your own plan. I was involved several years ago in the process of amending Part 115. We had a very active solid waste organization in Calhoun County. The real problem that you're going to have, and the reason that the state has encouraged collaboration, they're not going to be approving any more landfills. That's basically that's the main problem. And how many landfills are there in Leelanau County? One big, beautiful landfill. Is it in Leelanau?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Southern part of the county.
So what they're getting to is you're gonna have to cooperate regionally. The garbage that goes into that landfill is not gonna just come from Leelanau County, it's gonna come from other counties as well. And having that as a regional plan as to how that's managed makes a whole lot more sense than trying to manage it just by one county. It's gonna come from multiple districts, and that's how we manage it. How you manage it and make sure that there is capacity that remains for Leelanau County. So it doesn't get sold to someone else. We don't take garbage from Canada, as has been done many times in the past. That's why regional planning is being encouraged for this kind of activity.
It is my understanding, Gail, that for Leelanau County, we may not do something that Grand Traverse County does, because the plan would provide for that. So we
Correct.
aren't tied into doing everything Grand Traverse County does.
Correct.
All right, any other discussion? All right, if not, all in favor of that motion, say aye. Aye. All opposed, say nay. Motion carried, 7-0. All right, next up, we have the clerk for MERS service credit purchase.
MMP grant.
That was what we were just on.
Oh, you were,
so,
okay.
yeah.
All of you know Jen Kane, she's our HR manager that started last September. In the future, she will be presenting these. I'm just before you to ask for approval for an additional MERS service credit purchase for 1 year of generic service credit from MERS at an estimated cost of $27,437, with the cost of the service credit purchase to be paid for by said employee. This is consistent with all other service credit purchases that have been brought before you over the years. About 80% of them I presented to you. And it's pretty straightforward. Does anyone have any questions?
I recommend that the Leelanau County Board of Commissioners approve by resolution that Jennifer L. Zwicky be authorized to purchase 1 year of general service credit from MERS as described in the application for additional service credit purchase at a cost of approximately $27,437 to be paid by said employee.
Second. Or that was 437,000, right?
Didn't I say that?
No, it's just,
Okay,
yeah.
okay. Yeah, you know.
Discussion, Mr. Wessel?
It's a question for Jim or Michelle or Jen. We get these occasionally. What's our history been? Have we always approved?
Yes, you've never rejected one.
It's never rejected.
Never one, never.
That was my, because it does seem important to me that we're consistent.
You are consistent, and with the exception of Commissioner Campbell and Commissioner Yoder, every single one of you at one time or another, and sometimes jointly, haven't voted in favor of these.
The other thing that I would add is, as administrator, is because the MERS does very, very conservative actuarial and rate of return figures when they calculate. In all likelihood, Jen's paying more than what this actual service credit is worth to her. But there is a risk that you would pay some depending on what her choices are. But in the past, you've never denied one of these, and I would encourage you to do this, to approve that in this case as well. We also have this language in our collective bargaining agreements that basically allows that to be accessed, this kind of thing to be accessed by the unionized workers. So treating a non-unionized worker differently would be problematic. So,
Mr. Money?
Yeah, but my only concern is that I hope it doesn't help her retire earlier.
Is that a compliment to me?
I thought on that.
Yeah, that's our only concern.
I second that.
Do we need to do an amendment that you not retire early?
Yeah, but yeah.
You can't.
You can. I appreciate the words, thank you.
I've said the same thing, Jen as well. So.
All right, any other discussion? All right, if not, all in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say nay. Carried 7-0.
Thank you, appreciate it.
Next up, we have HR, Jennifer.
Are there any questions? We're doing some more job description revisions. Several of them are the exempt, non-exempt, which is the hourly versus salary that were in error.
Let's do the job training purchase first.
Oh, sorry, I didn't have my agenda. Thank you. Yes, so in a meeting, I think it was April meeting, one of the commissioners had asked about Northwest Michigan College for a possibility for training opportunities for our staff, and they do have it. Before you is a proposal on that training that would be in-house. So the trainers would come here to our building, and it's a 4-hour class on customer service and interactions, professional interactions with public and each other. So I think that that could benefit for people, especially people who haven't been here very long and received that training in the past. We have a budget for it already, so this would be utilizing some of that.
Somebody want to make a motion?
So I move to recommend the county board of commissioners authorize the customer service training as suggested and approving project modifications as presented.
Second.
Support, discussion, Campbell?
No, I was.
No,
gonna
Commissioner
try
Bonnie,
second,
sorry.
but I just can't quite get ahead of.
I kicked the move.
Right, you'd ask me.
Commissioner Money and then Commissioner Algar.
Yeah, I was just wondering, what's the difference between exempt and non-exempt when you talk about, you know?
Sure. So the Fair Labor Standard Act, it's a law that dictates on how we pay overtime wages. So if you're an hourly employee, we're required to pay overtime after a certain amount of hours in the week. If you're an exempt employee, we do not pay overtime. We only pay the salary, and it's a set wage throughout the year, but it's exempt from that
I got it.
rule.
That's a question for our next motion, I believe.
Yeah.
So,
It's a very common distinction in employment law, and it's not always hourly versus salary. You can have exempt employees that are paid hourly, but it's more common that they would be paid salary. Yeah, it's whether you're exempt from the Fair Labor Standards Act or not. I'm exempt, you know, I don't know, Jen, I think Jen is exempt. Mostly it's executive and administrative staff, somebody that has the authority to hire and fire, somebody that has the authority to manage or make recommendations regarding hiring and firing, they're generally falls for exempt.
right, we have comments on the motion that we have on the floor. Commissioner Algar and then Commissioner Wessel.
So has anybody indicated interest in this? I mean, do they seem to?
Continuing education is a way to enhance job satisfaction, is my understanding. So if you can encourage further education, it may make people enjoy their work more. So in the grand scheme of things, we want to make people enjoy their work more, and it would benefit the community as a whole. And I think that's our goal here, right?
It will be interesting to hear their feedback afterwards.
Yeah.
Commissioner Wessel.
Yeah, I wanted to just comment that as I wander around one of the offices, most of them behave like they've already been trained. I'm glad you're doing this, but I hope the message isn't that the board thinks the office staff need training, because they're doing commend for it, and they're pretty good at it, and I support this motion if they want to do it.
Okay.
Any other discussion on a motion? Not, all in favor of that motion, say aye. Aye. Opposed, say nay. Motion carried 7-0.
You know what, you bring up a good thing, though. Is this going to be required, or if they want it?
My understanding is it would be required for all front office staff.
Okay. Well, we'll get feedback afterwards.
All right,
Thanks.
now we can move on to job description updates. So,
Okay, I don't have the EDS in front of me, but I think there's several, thank you. Several that are going to that exempt, and it's not a change. This change happened in the past. This is just cleaning up the job description. And then in the Director of Emergency Management, there is some language in there about training volunteers. We don't utilize volunteers at the 911 facility. And the maintenance worker is the big one. So there's quite a few changes on that. I don't know if there's questions, but I'm certainly willing to, take questions if there are.
These were initiated by.
I move to recommend that the county board of commissioners update the job descriptions as presented.
yes, support for
Go
this.
ahead, you not getting out.
Do we have support for that?
I support it.
All right, support it. Now discussion. Commissioner Campbell.
How did these, is this because of the changes of personnel within the maintenance department? Is that where most of these derived from?
Yes, so the maintenance department, when we hired the facilities director, that role changed the supervisory hierarchy within there, and so each of these had to be updated. This one was quite a bit outdated. The services that were in that role are no longer being utilized, or at least in the original approved job description of the maintenance worker. And I'm pretty sure Mr. Bonick had brought that up earlier at a different meeting, that some of this might be outdated.
For example, we use contract janitorial services, and the previous maintenance worker job description included custodial work. They don't do and haven't done for a long time since we've had contract custodial. It was really more of a cleanup. Some of the others where it was simply changing from exempt to non-exempt is really my initiation, because you have to comply with the Fair Labor Standards Act. You want to make sure you have the correct designation for each employee, each job description.
I'd like to just make a general comment on all these, probably applies less to the maintenance position, but I guess it seems somewhat ironic in that right after we approved the customer service training, and I look through these job descriptions, and I bring this up because I think most evaluations are done based on job descriptions. There's nothing in there about meeting with the public, nothing in there about reaction with the public. And we, as you say, that's, yeah, I'm not saying that, I mean, I'm not saying that that isn't a positive for Leelanau County, that the attitudes and meetings of personnel. But I think it's a huge part of government, how you treat the people that you serve. And I personally would like to see that in job descriptions, so that when people they go the extra mile. Say our finance director meets with people, takes time from the public or for the public, that they're recognized for it within their evaluations. And it should also be a requirement, but like I said, I think it's being done. So that's my general observation on all of these. I don't see anything about PR, for lack of a better word. So.
All right, any other discussion?
Can I ask a question? So in regards to that topic, are you interested in having reviews, like personnel reviews? Because right now we don't. That's not a current practice. Performance reviews or stay interviews or anything like that.
Thought there would be performance interviews on a regular basis.
There is not one at this time that's been implemented to my knowledge. Does anyone want to correct me? It's something that many places do, but it is not currently done.
Part of working. So yeah, I would be. Anyway.
Money.
Yeah, I would be afraid of us getting in it. That really should be the heads of those departments, whether, especially if they're elected officials. It's really not up to us to interfere with those, I don't believe.
Well, okay, for elected officials, but our administrators in charge of a lot of departments.
Right, and that would be up to the administrator if you want to do those, I would say. I mean, I guess we could direct them to do that too.
I would think that's part of policy.
Yeah.
Whether you can use that. Right. Not something that I think we need to discuss this morning or this afternoon, but that just surprises me. And I like the idea. I think it helps. You talk about employee morale. I think it helps employee morale to meet one-on-one and have that dialogue. That's how things get improved and how things change.
Right.
I just kind of wonder what it would be like to have some departments getting reviews and some not. That gets complicated, so this needs a lot of talk.
Discussion for another time.
Well, maybe next time.
All right, we'll discuss this later. All those in favor of the motion on the floor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay.
Thank you.
Yes, 7-0. Right, we got item number C, which is amend Blue Cross Blue Shield plan to add Pillar RX plan.
I would recommend the Leelanau County Board of Commissioners adopt the Pillar Rights Program and Blue Cross Blue Shield of Michigan ASC plan to be amended.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and support discussion.
Any questions, anything that I can add? I think the EDS in the presentation makes it pretty clear how the program works. It's identified the drugs that are in play and how we save money is that our employees sign up for it. And then this group, the Pillar group, goes and gets the discounts from the manufacturers and passes it back on to us. It won't change the way it works for the employees. Their co-pays stay the same. And the amount that they pay stay the same. So the amount that we pay for the drugs is reduced. And as you'll see on page 107, it shows the amounts. It gives an example. Assuming everybody that uses these drugs signs up, it would be a total savings of $43,649. And of that, we'd see $32,737 in savings back. And the balance is, the difference is paid to Pillar RX services for the savings services that they provided to us. So it was just something that came up in our meetings with Blue Cross Blue Shield, and they proposed it as a means of us saving, again, not a lot of money in the larger scheme of things, but for $32,000 can do something else than what it's doing now. And it seemed like an easy decision to adopt this plan, and we wanted to propose it to you to allow us to do so. It requires a plan amendment. That's why I can't simply implement it.
Mr. Wessel?
I move to recommend that the Leelanau County Board of Commissioners adopt the Pillar RX program and then.
I already made the motion.
You already have a motion.
I liked it so much, I moved it again.
Mr. Algeier, any question?
I'm glad that this program exists because it will save our county money. It's interesting to me that a corporate entity is negotiating with these companies and saving money. There are programs that actually save the people money.
And we've already set the co-pays
Right.
so low that we can't necessarily reduce those and save our employees any more money. But what this will allow us to do with any, with this and other measures that we're taking, will allow us to maintain the program that we currently offer to our employees so they don't have to pay more.
Which is great.
And this is really, when you get down to it, it's no different than the Blue Cross Blue Shield program itself. What happens is Blue Cross Blue Shield goes out and negotiates, and in some instances imposes on healthcare providers the rates that they're going to pay, and then pass those savings on to us through the reduced premiums that we would otherwise have to pay if they didn't reach those contract agreements. Pillar simply does that on a very micro basis with a certain subset of drugs that we provide. The amazing thing, if there's anything, is to look at the cost of some of these drugs for over the course of time. We paid $66,000 for the Semezia.
Yeah.
For 12 potential claims. So
Well, thank you.
the administration thinks this is a good program and we encourage you to approve it.
Yes, that's nice.
All right, any other discussion?
Is this our silver bullet?
I wouldn't say it's a silver bullet, but it's one of the bullets in one of the bullets in the gun.
So the numbers pardon me, but I was trying to keep up with your earlier report and the number I saw increase for per employee. I was trying to put that in context with what the county expenses were.
Yeah, this program does not impact that stop loss fee that I
Right.
mentioned to you. That doesn't impact that at all.
Other than it's just in the healthcare budget.
Correct, because we currently pay, basically the full cost of a prescription medication, the full cost to Blue Cross Blue Shield of that prescription medication, less a $10 or $40 copay, depending on which one applies to the drug. We currently pay the full price of that.
So there was talk earlier and I, I would not, I've seen our insurance representative since then, of a large deficit in our budget. And where is that?
I think that was a mischaracterization. There's not a large deficit in the budget. There is.
Way expenses, I'm sorry.
Yeah, and even not a deficit in the amount of the money that we are budgeted to pay for our insurance program. I was intending to address this in a more comprehensive way at our next meeting, but let me just basically say, I think you understand the way our program works. We have a $20,000 stop loss, which basically means any expense, drugs, doctor care, or hospital care, any expense for whether it's an individual, a dual plan, or a family plan. So obviously for a family, $20,000 may not go very far in providing medical care these days. So for that contract, if the claims exceed $20,000, that's the limit of what we have to pay out of our pocket. And then anything else gets paid by the stop loss insurer. If you think of that as basically a very high deductible insurance policy, $20,000 deductible insurance policy, that's really what it is. So we pay, the major components of that are the claims that we pay, the administration fee that we pay to Blue Cross Blue Shield, which is a per contract fee, and then the stop loss fee. Those are the main three components. There's a few other things, but they're relatively minor that go into the cost of us to provide insurance to our employees. The one that we don't control, well, we don't control any of them, but the one we have no real impact on is the stop loss premium. What our insurance consultant told you at the last meeting, that amount went up a substantial amount. But the total of all those three things combined has remained relatively level to our budget for really the last 10 years or more. So we're in a good shape budget-wise, but that number, the stop loss premium, could continue to go up because the costs are going to continue to go up. So that's where you're going to have your problem, is if that stop loss premium gets too high. That's where you have the.
And he pointed specifically to prescription drugs.
And that yes, and the data that he provided to you at that meeting bears that out. It is as large or larger than the doctor visits and the hospitalization for each contract. It meets or exceeds that amount in aggregate for all our employees. So yeah, getting control of that is a major issue. And one of the first steps is adoption of the Pillar program, because what Pillar does is identify those drugs that are most costly to us, that they have programs with those manufacturers to get those rebates. There's a medication that I take that actually provides a rebate to the pharmacy.
He warned of dark clouds coming at us, and I'm just not convinced they are still coming at us.
Well, they're still
To be
coming at
honest.
us and we're in the process of trying to make sure that they don't overtake us.
And next month, we'll have a more detailed report.
Yes, exactly. That's what we plan.
Any other discussion? All right, not all in favor of that motion, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say nay. Motion carries 7-0. Next up, we have administration printer replacements. That's something to address. 123.
Yeah, basically, these are replacements of the printers in the planning and treasurer's department. Departments, based upon their needs, we've identified the purchase of two copiers as specified in the EDS. Budget information is presented to you. We did consider the potential cost, or excuse me, potential cost savings for leasing, and they did not appear as though that was any better or worse than, or excuse me, any better than purchase option, and the funds are available in the budget as indicated in EDS. I don't know if Kathy has anything to add, but that's.
We did,
our.
yeah, there's cash in the Duke fund. We did not budget for purchase of printers this year. It was not in the budget process for 25, so I will amend the Duke fund. But typically, the administrative office administration will keep an inventory of the rotation, much like you manage your fleet. And periodically, we replace the oldest machines as we age out. These two were identified as the oldest, and we haven't purchased copiers in a couple of years.
Commissioner Bonnie?
I move to recommend that Leelanau County Board of Commissioners waive bid policy and purchase two proposed copier printers for treasurer and planning from the county's current provided net business solutions in the amount not to exceed $11,466, with funds to come from the duplicating machine fund. Numbering ending in 970.000.
Support. All right, supported discussion, Commissioner Wessel.
Yeah, we've been doing business with Netflix a long time. I like YouTube together. Net, what's the name of this? And they have a good product, but have we gone out for bid lately?
I think we did have a bid opening in 24, 23 or 24, and NetLink was awarded.
Okay.
So we did do a bid process within the last 3 years.
We waived the bid policy on a lot of items, and this may not be the one that picked, but we used to have a commissioner that every time we had a bid policy waiver, he would remind us that we shouldn't be doing that.
Discussion.
I like that discussion. Yeah, I agree with that. It makes sense to go shake the bushes.
All right, any other discussion? Not, all in favor of that motion, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say nay. Carry 7-0. All right, next up, we are to review financials.
Any questions regarding invoices presented in claims and accounts?
I just had one, it's about the budget in the budget forms that you sent us. You know, emergency services is at 748%. And that's quite a bit over budget, and I was wondering what's the explanation for that?
Well, great minds ask great questions, because I was asked the same question by Chairman Yoder. And in April, one of the last bills that was paid in the month of April was For Your Point broadband, 2 cabinets, 11 and 13, if I recall. That check was cut from Emergency Management Services, the ARPA line item. And so in May, last month, you approved an amendment to the emergency services budget for that purchase. And that takes care of that number. And I did send a budgetary status update to Chairman Yoder. I'll send it to all of you showing April and May, and the board action taken in May amends that budget.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I kind of thought that's what it was about, but
Sure.
because I can see how it could be that far out of line.
Yeah, in the accounting for the ARPA funds, I think it fell under emergency management services, coronavirus. I mean, Jen could address that as well, because it goes back to the beginning of the coronavirus ARPA award.
Any other questions for Finance Director? All right,
Okay,
thank you.
sure.
We have special reports, staff, commissioners, and anyone else, any special reports? Next up, we are to public comments. If you have any individuals that wish to address the board, they have 5 minutes. Mr. Mikowski.
Good morning and afternoon. Just a little follow-up here. Trying to understand as an ordinary taxpayer what's going on with the early childhood fund. I'm curious whether item 4 of the agenda is the same item as item 9B. You're not, okay. I'm going to address the item in 9B because what seems peculiar that we had a millage that was foisted upon the people by the commissioners. They caused it to be initiated and to be voted on. The people did not lawfully petition for that at all. They never saw that as a need. And here we are with a budget surplus of almost 1 full year of tax revenue, $700,000. Someone correct me if I'm wrong. We're trying to find a way how to pee away. And we're not asking the voters to make those changes. But we don't care, do we? They don't matter at all to us. As long as we're elected, we can keep on doing what we're doing and support everything that the prior commissions have done. Does that sound logical? Probably is. Probably is. So this kind of recklessness by its commission and prior commissions will just continue on. There's no expectations for improvement, for prudence, and responsible fiduciary duties. The issue of the materials management. We're happy to entertain the control of everything by a centralized location. But one thing we'll do with that, we will keep all consultants very happy with obscene profits and obscene salaries. They'll enjoy this very much, very, very much. And I'm sure you guys will generously donate to their cause. And finally, we have the failure on this agenda to have the apology resolution by this commission for the May 11th, 2021 decision, which harmed the clerk and wasted about $1 million of taxpayers' money. We would appreciate you if you could move that forward. Since Mr. Dyer is a lawyer, he should be able to snap one up for you very quickly and do that and put that behind you. Thank you.
Any other public comment? Oh, we got a gentleman in the back there, sir.
Hello, I'm David Mosher, a resident of Suttons Bay Township, and I'm here to read some information from concerned Leelanau residents, if I could. Try and be brief. So I'm here today to express our concern regarding Administrator Jim Dyer and the board's ongoing silence regarding his clear violation of his employment contract. Mr. Dyer is seeking election to the Cherryland Electric Cooperative Board, which is a significant outside commitment. This violates section 3C of his contract, which requires full-time focus on county duties and explicitly prohibits outside board service or employment without prior board approval. The Cherryland Board sets energy policy, utility rates that directly affect this county government center, one of its largest customers. It's not a bad look, it's potentially a breach of contract. Mr. Dyer's campaign appears to be backed by a nonprofit political organization with a clear energy policy agenda. And now we have proof of misuse of public office. His campaign ad is published in the Record Eagle, explicitly identifies him as a current Leelanau County administrator. This is a public-facing ad promotion for his candidacy for Cherryland's board, and it was paid for by the Groundwork Center for Resilient Communities. Let me quote from Mr. Dyer's employment contract, section 3, paragraphs C. The employee agrees to devote full-time attention to the business of the county and shall not engage or accept in any outside employment service on any outside board without prior approval of the Board of County Commissioners. The employee further agrees not to use his position with the county to promote outside activities. The language is not ambiguous. It's crystal clear. Mr. Dyer has not received prior approval, and he is openly using his county title in political advertising. If the administrator can ignore his contract, openly campaigning using taxpayer-funded title without coincidence, then the board is not fulfilling its oversight duty. While it's clear conflict of interest, it also violates his fiduciary obligation to the taxpayers and the Board of Commissioners. Silence sends a serious message that our rules don't apply to those at the top. The board must act. At minimum, this issue should be placed on the next agenda and the facts reviewed with appropriate accountability and measures taken. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Dave? Any public comment? Yes.
Peggy Zamanek, and I am just handing out to one of what he had just read. So I'll have a copy.
Thank you, Peggy.
You're welcome.
Mr. Reason.
Bill Wiesner, Elmwood Township. And again, on the elections, in order to have no fraud, simple, one person, one ballot, one vote, one day. And the one poll I showed you just recently in the last month or so showed that over 50% of every voting group, likely voters, said they would be more than happy to go to county rooms or their schools and count the votes. So it's not that we couldn't get the help for it. This handout is one that I handed out at Jocelyn Benson's thing at the Opera House. It was like a week ago. And it's on the elections. I had the sign out in the front too, and was there before it started by an hour and after it for a long time. Gave these handouts to all the folks going in and out who would take them. And so it's simple this. She's got a book, The Purposeful Warrior. And I would encourage her, TC Family encourages Secretary of State Benson to be honest and brave warrior to expose all election fraud. That should be the purpose. That should be why she's a warrior. She's to defend the vote. And but what she says in this online YouTube, you can find it, just type in, "We will come for you." That's a picture of her there when she's speaking this. "We will come for you if you don't," and this is to local people, the clerks, the canvassers locally here. "We will come for you if you don't sign off on the election." Their first thing is to look over everything. If they find pause, then what? If they find fraud, we will come for you. Like they did the clerk in downstate, like they did to Tina Peters. And there's, she's breaking the law by that. At the bottom there, it gives a Michigan law, prohibition on intimidation or interference with election work, clerkers and such. One canvasser is speaking out against it in this article. And then again, just a reminder, the fourth question I would ask this county is, how come the Democrats were all concerned about the elections before the 2020 election? Here's Hillary Clinton quotes and Kamala Harris, that the voting machines, we just can't trust them. It's my handout on my TC Family website. You can read all the quotes from like 18 of them. The people, Kamala Harris says, "It's worth fighting for integrity in our election systems." And now they're all silent on this issue. There's only one reason they're silent, it's because they're happy with the results. And on the backside, again, the list that I gave to Michelle here locally with all the circled items on my website, relevant to the four questions. And the four questions that I had were the cast vote record. I'm supposed to stop by and check on that in the office. I'll do that today if she's in. And then the second one, the COO and the vice president of election source said there's a back door. They need to answer that question. Is there a back door? And why are we going ahead with this equipment if there's a back door to the systems? And the third one, Leelanau County, 34%, Antrim, 39%, Grand Traverse, 45%. Unexpected results. It never happened in the 10 years before, 2010, 12, 14, 16, 18. There was no big spread like this. 2020 on the Supreme Court election. How did we swing that far? And then the fourth question again, how come the Democrats were all against this and now they're not? And the election on the back of this handout, it looks at Tina Peters. She's in jail for 9 years. They wouldn't let her show the election fraud evidence. And Jenna Griswold, the Secretary of State, who was Secretary of State when she was running for Secretary of State, and Tina got primary, she was ahead by 47% in a three-way race, and she almost came in last in that race. And they were forced to give a recount on that. But she wouldn't do what she should have done, looked at the paper, they looked at an image of it. And that's where they can cheat in the machines. And it's talking about Lindell there on the bottom. You go to the Gateway Pundit to find 4 great articles on the suit right now against Lindell. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other public comment?
Good afternoon. I wish I was saying good morning still. My name is Dana Getzinger, Elmwood Township, and I would like to thank Mr. Dyer for running for the Cherryland Board. It's often hard to find citizens who will do these jobs. And it's a once a month meeting. I'm pretty sure he can figure out his time. I think he's been doing an exemplary job just from today's meeting. So I would like to thank you, Mr. Dyer, for running. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes.
Sorry, these old bones don't move like they used to when you sit for a while. Has nothing to do with getting old. Kathy Dawkins, Leland Township. In light of what is happening with our federal government's present attitudes and policies, I want to thank this board for being respectful towards our Leelanau County community while remaining fiscally responsible. As you have heard from the previous public comments, cuts in services will negatively impact your constituents. You addressed the issues of mental health, dental needs, prenatal care, and child care, along with the child care fund through one of our courts. I want to thank you for addressing those in a way that will help our community, and it really does make a difference, as all of you know. In regards to our county administrator on the Cherryland board, I echo everything that Dana just said, along with, I don't see how it's a conflict of interest to serve on Cherryland. I am going to, I know assume is always a bad term, but I know that our county administrator will conflict out if he feels that there is in fact a conflict of interest. Thank you.
Any other public comment? All right, thank you. Next up, we have commissioner comments. Commissioners' comments, Commissioner Campbell.
Couple comments first. Is the building committee, do you guys plan on holding the meeting, or do I need to put that on the agenda to have a motion to have a meeting?
We just have to call for it, and the administrator set it up.
I have it on my list of things to do.
Okay.
This meeting.
I just didn't want
Yeah, I
that.
need to have it.
Okay. And I honestly think we do have to address that gorilla in the room. And that we haven't talked about. And I talked to Mr. Dyer one-on-one, and at that particular, I expressed my concerns about him running. That particular time, I was unaware of the contract. And those concerns would be more personal rather than part of any official capacity, in that I didn't think I had any authority as a commissioner. But since then, your contract has arisen as a point of contention. And honestly, I'm disappointed that to be honest, I'm disappointed you didn't address it during your presentation, during our administrator's presentation, because it's very clear in this contract that the employee will remain an exclusive employee of Leelanau County, and that he will not engage in any employment or business outside of this agreement. The agreement is set up to require our administrator to put his or her full attention towards this job, and not to accept other positions, especially paying positions. And this is, I don't know, I just know that that's at least $12,000 a year. And I know they meet on Wednesdays, and our contract says shall not engage in any employment or business outside of this agreement. Well, it says that you'll be here during working hours. This is a commitment that I assume is during working hours. And as I read the contract, I also do not, my reading of the contract is that we don't even have the authority to make an exception, because the contract says that should Mr. Dyer accept employment outside of his full-time administrator position, that he gets prior, and perhaps he hasn't signed a contract, so anyways, prior written permission from the board. And one of the circumstances that that would not allow us to provide that would be if he engaged in such activity during the employee's regularly scheduled working hours, and that this position not cause any incompatibility, conflict of interest, or any possible appearance of conflict of interest, or any impairment of the independent and impartial performance of the employee's duties. I didn't realize during our conversation, I was more than willing to just never bring it up again because I didn't understand, or and that's my fault, I guess, the contractual obligations of this position. So whether we need to put it on the agenda, get another attorney's opinion at our next meeting. I mean, I think part of your job is to make me a better commissioner, and part of my job is to make you a better administrator. I do not think this position is going to make you a better administrator for Leelanau County if you look at the interests strictly of Leelanau County. And that's what I am worried about, the interests of Leelanau County. So however you guys want to handle it, those are my thoughts.
Mr. Allgaier.
I fully support Mr. Dyer's desire to participate in the Cherry Electric Board. That's not a job. It's a board. We're all many of us are on many boards. It's not a full-time commitment. It's once a month commitment. I can imagine where a lot of this comes from. And I fully support his running to be on the Cherryland board. He's been on a board like this before. He has excellent abilities and experience to do this work. So I just see this as his serving all of us in one more capacity.
Yeah, I listened carefully to Mr. Campbell and why our administrator doesn't have an 8 to 5 job, because I know there's several evenings each week that he's involved in county administration work. So I don't buy that argument on it. We're going to get our 50 hours a week out of our administrator. But I was approached yesterday by a reporter, and I responded to his question. And I said, I am pleased that our administrator is committed to the community and board service. Mr. Dyer's prior experience and ability should make him a valuable member of the Cherryland board. For years, a Leelanau County commissioner served on the Cherryland board, and I understand that the county's legal counsel ruled that there was no conflict. I support and endorse Mr. Dyer's commitment to community service, and I know that he would serve both Cherryland and the county well. Cherryland board members are not employees. They oversee but do not run the utility. Since board membership is not outside employment, it is not subject to the terms of the administrator employment agreement. If a commissioner who does have a vote on the county board did not have a conflict of interest during Commissioner Lautner's tenure, it seems obvious to me that an employee who does not have a vote on the county board does not have a conflict of interest. Leelanau County is fortunate to have Mr. Dyer as administrator. I am absolutely convinced that his service on other boards or organizations confirms that the county made an excellent choice when they unanimously approved his selection. If the Cherryland members select Jim as a member of the board, he will serve them and the county well. Thank you.
Any other commissioner comments?
I'd like to talk again if I could, please. I think
Don't get one round and you come back.
okay, I thought, I didn't know you guys,
Well,
I
just
didn't,
my hand.
I didn't see your hand. I'm sorry.
Go ahead, Mr. Thomas.
I don't know where to begin on this. Seems like this all started back last fall during the election. I talked to some of your groups, and you know who I'm talking to. You know, there's some dirty campaigning going on with ads. I was a recipient of one of them. And of course, you all apologize later, but yeah, I see last week's paper starts all over again. And Mr. Dyer is an employee of mine, he's an employee of all of us. And I'm gonna back my employee. He's done a hell of a job in the last 2.5 months he's been here. And I think if a lot of you would look at the facts, look at each candidate and see who's qualified, he is the top qualified person that's running. And some of you aren't even gonna determine whether he's elected, because you don't even have Cherry Land. So I feel like, let the people decide whether he should be on that board. Spend your time and energy out there instead of in here with us. You know, he did approach 2 of our board members for permission, so he had permission to do this. So I just feel that I'm gonna back him. I think he's gonna do a heck of a job. He looks at everything. He's not there just, you know, I know you guys are feared of all the solar and all that. He's gonna do his job, trust me. He's doing his job here, he will do it at Cherryland.
Walter?
No, I don't begrudge anybody from serving their public. And if there is an issue, if there is a conflict, we'll deal with it then. There's no conflict, and I'm running, he hasn't been elected. If he's elected and his duties interfere with his duties here, then there'll be a breach of contract. Until there's a breach of contract, this is a non-issue for this board, in my opinion. Thank you.
Any other commissioner comments?
Yeah, just to circle back, I think somehow this gets personal, and really, it should never be personal. This is about a contract. And if you stick to the contract, things become pretty clear that that what Mr. Dyer is doing, running for this position, is he's putting himself down the road to violate a contract that's only 2 months in existence. Being approached by 2 board members has the same authority as 0 board members. 2 board members don't make decisions for this. Matter of fact, the chair and the co-chair have absolutely no more authority to approve this decision than anyone else on this board. We all have equal status. The thing that bothers me is the personal thing. And I draw irony that folks on one side of the Lautner debate are now on the other side of the Lautner debate. Of course, there was a conflict when Melinda was on. The difference was Melinda had a contract with her constituents. She did not sign a contract saying she would be exclusively employed. And by the way, when you're getting paid for a position, you are employed. Whether you're the boss, we are employees.
No, we're not.
Yes, we are.
We're not.
Yes, we are. We get a W-2.
We're not employees.
Talk to your HR manager. She made it very clear when I signed up that I am an employee. So I disagree fully with that. We get a W-2. We are employees of Leelanau County. So I find that that because it's somebody, it's the shoes on the other foot, that now there's not a conflict. There is a conflict, but her contract, as I say, was with constituents. Mr. Dyer's contract is with us, and it's up to us to enforce that contract and make sure he abides by it. And if we don't, what other parts of that contract are we going to ignore? What I'm saying is, you start ignoring, especially major pieces of a contract, the rest of it becomes void. So this is a very serious issue. Contractual. As I said, he'd be a great member of the board. That isn't the point. That he's the most qualified, I'm not arguing that at all. That isn't the point. The point is that he has a contract with us. And we are charged with ensuring that that contract is enforced.
Mr. Money?
Yeah, I would agree with Commissioner Campbell. My fear is that our administrator's not gonna leave himself any leeway from mistakes. If he makes mistakes, they're gonna say he's, conflicted or he has double interest. And so I just, being only 2 months on the job, I just think that he's created a situation that makes it difficult for him. And so I think that's a dual problem myself. So I hope that doesn't happen, but we all make mistakes. And when you do, I think they get compounded by having dual interest.
All right, as chair, I'll make a final statement and then we'll move on here, but, I was aware of some of the questions that may come up and I, asked our administrator to reach out to legal counsel to get an opinion, based on some of this, and legal counsel's opinion is that this is not outside employment. And so that's kind of how I viewed it all along as well. I don't view it as outside employment because it's not, to your statement, I understand where you're coming from, Commissioner Campbell. I don't see myself as an employee of the county. Yes, I may be, get a stipend or per diem or whatever to come to these meetings. I don't view myself as that because I got elected by the people, to serve the people. And that's how I view myself as. And I actually went on to Cherryland website and pulled up their bylaws to see what the qualifications are as far as running for Cherryland board. And they specifically state on there, in my opinion, that you're not an employee if you're running for a director position. And that's how I view that, I guess. And based off our legal opinion from county, they would agree with that. So that's where I stand with that. And Dyer has my support in doing, whatever board he wants to serve on in that capacity. I only think it can help the county in that sense. Obviously there's things that he has to understand with his capacity, what he can handle and what he can't, but I don't view it as outside employment, and the same as our legal counsel as well. So that's my statement.
May I ask that you share that legal opinion with your fellow commissioners?
I can do that.
Are you helpful?
Yeah. All right, with that, we'll move on to approval of financials.
Claims and accounts.
Your money?
Yeah, I would make a motion that we approve claims and accounts for the amount of $211,634.60.
Support. Remain supported. Discussion? None. All in favor of that motion, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say nay. Motion carries 7-0. Your money?
I make a motion that we approve post audit for the amount of $4,620,552.41.
I have a different figure.
Do. I added 1 and 2 together.
I have 5,327,000, Tuesday, June 10th.
Was there a late?
No,
No. Yeah. So I would amend, I would move that. Did somebody second that?
No.
No. Good. So I would change the motion to post audit for $5,327,897.45.
Second. Made supported. Discussion? All right, not all in favor of that motion, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say nay.
Thank you.
Motion carried 7-0.
thank you.
All right, with that.
Yes, sir.